So happy to see you after a long time.
Namaskara, sir.
ಗಾಯತ್ರಿ ಅವರು 4 ಮಿನಿಟ್ ಲೇಟು. 4 ಮಿನಿಟ್ ಲೇಟು.
ಕನ್ನಡ ಐತೆ ಬಂದೆ.
ಸರ್, ಈ ಕೊನೆ ಮಿನಿಟ್ ತನಕ ನಾನು ಇದನ್ನ
ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಮೇಡಮ್ ಕಲೈಸೆಲ್ವಿ ಮೇಡಮ್ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ವಣಕಂ.
Namaskar. Good to see all of you. Professor Vasu, good evening, sir. How are you?
Yes.
I'm so excited to see all of you.
All right, I am all right.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Good to see you, sir.
Kalaiselvi madam here. Kalaiselvi madam here. How are things there? Madam, you are muted.
Okay. No, I'm not muted.
Yeah. Now we can.
Things are very much under control. We are all keeping good.
They are all good.
We are all keeping good. Yeah.
Okay, convey my regards to everybody.
Sure, sir. Sure. We look forward to meet you in person, maybe in the near future.
ಹುಚ್ಚು ವಾಸನೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ.
Yeah. Madam said that after once the COVID comes down, we will meet. Okay, you please come down, we will meet.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I look forward.
Right, maybe after.
We are supposed to have met there and had a good program for all the women.
Yeah. But next year by this time again, all of us will meet in person.
Sure, by this time. Next year, okay.
Yeah, hopefully.
I hope
We all will meet in person.
I hope I will be alive by that time.
Sir, definitely. You should be, and we all meet you will be, sir.
DP Bhatt sir, namaskar. DP Bhatt sir, can you unmute and DP Bhatt sir. DP Bhatt. Hello Bhatt. ಮತ್ತೆ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಏನ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಮೇಡಮ್? ಸರಿ ಅಕ್ಕ. ಓಕೆ ನಾನು ನೋಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು. ಓಕೆ
Padmaja madam, are you there?
Yes, madam, I am there.
Yeah, okay.
அது க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிடு.
Temporary.
This is Nanu. Nanu here.
Sir.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yeah, I think so. We can. Yeah, yeah. Everybody, I think that. That is what she was not coming. Jyoti Lakshmi. Okay. Okay. Let us. Okay. Yeah. Another 2-3 minutes. Okay, another 4:15 minutes. Okay, 4:15. Okay. I'll tell you. Gare Saab, namaskara. हाँ मैडम. हेलो. Gare is there. Your student Sudhakar Nayak is there. HP Sudhakar Nayak. Oh, nice to see him. He used to come and meet me when he comes to Bangalore. His daughter is here. Here, DP Bhatt here. DP Bhatt area.
Gayatri,
DP Bhatt.
start madada.
Hello. Bhatt sir. DP Bhatt
Yeah,
sir.
namaskar. Namaskar.
I got your letter.
Yes, sir.
I will write to you in a detailed way.
No problem, sir. No problem.
So I'm just
Okay, sir.
thinking.
Yes, sir.
Valarmati madam, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, madam. Namaskar. Just wanted to check if everything is
I am available. Glad to meet you all people today.
Yes, ma'am. So good. I just wanted to check if your audio is coming in. That's fine. Okay.
Vivekananda Pai. Vivekananda Pai is here. He is saying namaskar. Namaskar.
Namaste, Vasuji.
Hello. I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah. Very fine. Today morning we had a meeting of Swadeshi executive also.
We had a meeting of SSM Kerala meeting, executive committee meeting. Our Geeta, Dr. Geeta here. I can't. Geeta, founder member. Oh, yeah. Geeta, nice to see you. You start the program. She comes outside our Vijnana Bharati. Also come here.
Hello, Ramesh, am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, madam.
Yes.
Very much.
Okay, thank you.
It's starting.
Gayatri,
Gayatri madam, vidira?
ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ?
Gayatri madam.
Gayatri.
Gayatri madam is there, sir. Gayatri madam.
Gayatri madam, unmute yourself.
Unmute there.
Yes. Shall we start?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. We can start.
Yes.
This many people are there. This is Valarmati madam here. Valarmati madam here.
A very good afternoon to one and all. Welcome to the online webinar series hosted by Swadeshi Vijnana Andolana, Karnataka. Every year, this time, the Women's Wing Matru Vedike has been organizing the National Women's Science Congress on the occasion of Bharat Ratna Shri Sir C.V. Raman and Madam Marie Curie birth anniversary. 12 editions of the same has been organized at various universities and colleges in Karnataka between 7th and 9th November each year. This year, with the new normal being virtual meetings, on behalf of the organizers, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you today. This day also happens to be the foundation day of Swadeshi Science Movement, Vijnana Bharati. We have with us 3 renowned personalities who have, by their achievements in their respective fields, given us reasons to be proud of them. Before we move on to be engaged by our speakers, may I call upon Dr. Y.S. Gayatri, founder member and treasurer SWACK, for the organization prayer. Ma'am?
Yes. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Ishavashyamidam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bhunjithaha Magridhakkasya Siddhanam Vidyancha Avidyancha Yattadvedo Bhayam Sada Avidyayam Mrityum Tikva Vidyayam Mritamashnute. Om सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Thank you, ma'am. May I now invite Dr. Geeta, founder member SWACK, for the invocation. Ma'am, over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Namaste Sharade Devi Kashmira Puravasini Tvamaham Prarthaye Nityam Vidyam Buddhim Cha Dehi Me Tvamaham Prarthaye Nityam Vidyam Buddhim Cha Dehi Me. Saraswati Namostute Sharade Vidya Prade. Saraswati Namostute Sharade Vidya Prade. Saraswati Namostute Sharade Vidya Prade. Saraswati Namostute. Karadhrita Veena Pustaka Karadhrita Veena पुस्तक करधृत वीणा पुस्तक करधृत वीणा पुस्तक वरमणिमालालङ्कृत करधृत वीणा पुस्तक वरमणिमालालङ्कृत सरस्वती नमोऽस्तुते शारदे विद्याप्रदे सरस्वती नमोऽस्तुते नरहरि सुत विधिलालिते नवमणियुत कंबुकळे नरहरि सुत विधिलालिते नवमणियुत कंबुकळे सुरसेवित पदयुगळे सुरसेवित पदयुगळे सुरसेवित पदयुगळे सुधाकार समदवळे सुरसेवित पदयुगळे सुधाकार समदवळे सरस्वती नमोस्तुते हरदे विद्याप्रदे सरस्वती नमोस्तुते
Thank you, Geeta ma'am, for the melodious rendition and invoking the blessings of the Almighty. To welcome all of us and to let us know who have joined us today, may I request Dr. Padmaja from Ramaya Institutions to please come on board.
Yes. So, Sarvebhyo Namaha. Good evening to one and all. It's my pleasure to welcome you all hearty for being here with us today. First, I would like to welcome Professor K.I. Vasu, founder of Swadeshi Science Movement, Vijnana Bharati, patron of Swadeshi Vijnana Andolana, Karnataka, former director of CSIR CECRI Karaikudi, and former professor of IISc Bengaluru.
Welcoming you. They are welcoming you. They are welcoming you. Say namaskar. Say namaskar.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskara. Namaskara.
Namaste, sir. Namaste, sir. I heartily welcome Dr. Vijay P. Bhatkar, President of Vijnana Bharati. And I warm welcome Dr. Shankar Rao Tatwadi, mentor of Vijnana Bharati. Also, I extend my warm welcome to all India state EC members of Vijnana Bharati. I deem it a privilege and honor to welcome you, Dr. N. Valarmati, Madam. She is a project director, RESAT-1 of ISRO, former outstanding scientist, deputy director of ISRO. I am very much glad to announce that she is C.V. Raman awardee by SWACK in the year 2012. Welcome you, ma'am. Also, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Professor Rohini Godbole, Madam. She is a Padma Shri awardee, professor in Center for Higher Energy Physics, IISc Bengaluru, visiting professor for Van der Waals Chair at University of Amsterdam, and also she is also a C.V. Raman awardee by SWACK in the year of 2010. I extend a hearty welcome to Professor E.T. Puttaya, President of SWACK. And also warm welcome to Captain Ganesh Karnik sir, Working President of SWACK. I would like to welcome Ramesh H, General Secretary of SWACK, also all the district unit members of SWACK. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Y.S. Gayatri, Treasurer and Chairperson of Matru Vedike, and Dr. Kavita B, Vice Chairperson of Matru Vedike of SWACK. Also, I welcome all members of Matru Vedike. It's my pleasure to welcome all the delegates from Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh, New Delhi, UP, Punjab, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, and also all parts of Karnataka, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, across the country. Last but not least, a hearty welcome to all the office bearers of Swadeshi Vijnana Andolana, Karnataka. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and a very warm welcome to you too. Let's begin our talk series today. And for the first talk, we have Professor K.I. Vasu, founder VIBHA and founder President SWACK. To introduce Sir, I call upon Dr. M.N. Shailaja, founder member SWACK. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Namaste and a very good evening to all who have joined us today. It's my proud privilege to introduce our mentor, a father figure and affectionate personified Vasuji in a nutshell. Dr. K.I. Vasu has been a teacher, scientific researcher, R&D manager, educationist, and social worker, all rolled into one. He has taught in SKV College, Thrissur, IIT Chennai, IISc Bangalore. As Professor of Metallurgy at IISc and as the Chairman of Bangalore chapter of the Indian Institute of Metals and as an honorary member of Indian Institute of Metals, Vasu has helped in shaping the metallurgical education and research in India. Professor Vasu has rendered commendable services as the Pro Vice Chancellor of Cochin University, officiating Vice Chancellor of Madurai Kamaraj University, Chairman of Kerala State Committee on Science and Technology, member of Tamil Nadu State Council for Science and Technology, and as a member of the Syndicate, Senate, and Academic Council of various universities. Professor Vasu has molded the growth of electrochemistry in India, his major contribution being as the Director of Central Electrochemical Research Institute under the CSIR, serving under various capacities in Electrochemical Society of India, the Society for Advancement of Electrochemical Science and Technology, International Corrosion Council. He has been instrumental in bringing out the Bulletin of Electrochemistry, the only international monthly journal from India, founding of the National Corrosion Council of India, and more importantly, established the world's first BTech course in electrochemical engineering, along with conducting several international symposia. As a research scientist, he has guided 42 students for PhD and 7 students for MSc in metallurgy and electrochemistry. He has published over 200 research papers and 2 original books, in addition to several edited books. He has been the recipient of National Metallurgist Award 1971 and the FICCI Award 1975. He was the first Bhumet Golden Jubilee Fellow of the Banaras Hindu University. A multifaceted personality of eminence, he has been contributing to various fields. He is the founder of Swadeshi Vijnana Andolana Vikas Pratishthan, the Kindergarten Research Foundation, and many other professional and socio-cultural organizations. His contribution to science and technology is huge as the chairman of STATS, member of Advisory Committee of KVIC, member of Technology Development Board, and as member of various advisory committees of governments of the states, as well as Government of India. He is the founder and the national president of Vijnana Bharati and currently its patron. As the president, he coordinated the activities of all Vijnana Bharati units throughout the country, as also 3 milestone programs: World Congress on Vedic Sciences, World Ayurveda Congress, and Bharatiya Vijnan Sammelan. He is also the patron of Swadeshi Vijnana Andolana, Karnataka. Born on 28/3/1929 in Kerala and now settled in Bangalore, Dr. Vasu is a science policy thinker and technocrat and an enthusiastic exponent of Swadeshi sciences and Bharatiya scientific heritage. With this brief introduction, Dhanyavadas to all. And now I request Vasu sir to take over. Thank you all.
You start speaking about everything. Yeah, yes, yeah.
Hello,
Louder.
everybody. Happy to listen to me? I hope so. It's very rare that we talk to each other. At least now, all of us together discussing about the future of our organization. We use 2 terms. One is Swadeshi Vijnana Andolana, Karnataka. The other one is Vijnana Bharati. You should understand the relationship between these 2. Vijnana Bharati is the coordinating body of all the Swadeshi science movement in the country. There are over 30 to 40 units now all over the country. Like Swadeshi Vijnana Andolana, Karnataka here. We have Swadeshi Science Movement Kerala. We have the Swadeshi Science Movement Tamil Nadu. We have Swadeshi Science Movement of India in Delhi and so on. All over the country we have our units. And Vijnana Bharati is supposed to be coordinating the activities of all these units. The Swadeshi Science Movement itself was formed way back on November 7, 1982, almost 40 years ago. And in 1982, when we met, we decided that it should be expanded into a national movement. And first we thought we should form the state units. So we had several state units formed in Karnataka, in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, in Maharashtra. There were 3 units: the Bombay unit, the Pune unit, and Nagpur unit. We had 3 units in Uttar Pradesh, Lucknow, Banaras, and Kanpur. We had several units in other parts of India, and the latest one at that time was the one to come in Bhopal. And as it stands now, Bhopal has a big building costing about 1 crore in 10 years ago. And in Kerala also, we have our own building in Kochi. So we have assets in state unit level, and the Vijnana Bharati activity is only to coordinate the activities of the Swadeshi Science Movement. What is the Swadeshi Science Movement? The first question was when I raised this name, several opposition came for that word Swadeshi. There is no Swadeshi science. There is no Videshi science. There is only one science. In fact, when I analyze the science culture the world over, I find India has a distinct concept of science, and that science leads to what is called the traditional sciences of the country. And the traditional sciences of the country is in tune with the modern sciences as developed in the West. But the framework of these 2 are entirely different. The framework of modern science is based on the Western development of culture, civilization, whereas India, very ancient concept of science was there, And our sciences include the physical, mental, and spiritual aspects of life. In fact, it covers the entire spectrum of socio-cultural, psycho-spiritual, and material sciences. And because of this peculiar nature of our Bharatiya sciences, we have been able to develop science in almost all fields. From Vedic period, we had Vedanta Shastras. They are the sciences dealing with various aspects of understanding Vedas. And there you will find Kalpa, Chandas, Nirukta, then Jyotisha, Ganita, and all these things coming there. And then when you come to the Upanishadic period, we develop Upanishads. Many of them scientific aspects were involved. In many of them, other aspects were spiritual aspects, social aspects were involved. For example, Ishavasya Upanishad, one of the simplest, smallest Upanishads that deal with life, all its aspects, where we have our motto involved. Avidyaya Mrityam Durta Vidyaya Amradam Snude. This is a part of Ishavasya Upanishad. And our prayer is essentially based on the Ishavasya Upanishad. Now, when we come to the Upanishad period, all these developments took place. But there are the other aspects of Upavedas. And there you'll find Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Gandharva Veda. Then we have developed Arthashastra, Kama Sutra, and so on. And almost all aspects of human life has been dealt with in the Upavedas. So all these sciences together, we call it as a traditional sciences. And this development is possible mainly because the framework of Bharatiya sciences is 5-dimensional, whereas Western science is only 3-dimensional. At the most, we can say 4-dimensional. If you take Albert Einstein's contribution in space-time continuum as one of the units of modern science. So Western science or modern science is essentially 4-dimensional at the most, whereas Bharatiya sciences are 5-dimensional. And these 5 dimensions are very difficult to explain in a shorter time. Essentially, we consider it as a positive, negative, neutral, then come to illusion and reality. Illusion and reality is what is called Maya and Brahma. This is the crucial aspect of Bharatiya sciences. The 4th dimension is Maya, and the 5th dimension is Brahma. Maya is measurable, and Brahma is immeasurable. It is only we can conceive of it, we can measure it. And these two concepts are peculiar to India. And with this background only, we have been able to develop all the sciences. Now, this is the essential difference between the modern sciences and the traditional Indian sciences. As far as our growth is concerned, we started the Swadeshi Science Movement in 1982, 7th November. And from there onwards, we established state units in various other parts of the country. And in 1991, we can say, the Vijnana Bharati was formed to coordinate it, but it was registered only in 2001. And the first meeting of Vijnana Bharati was the World Congress on Vedic Sciences. Following that, we had several other major programs of Swadeshi Science Movement. Vijnana Bharati. The second meeting was Bharatiya Heritage in Engineering and Technology. Then we had Bharatiya Vijnana Sammelan, where only the scientific aspects are discussed, but bring all the language groups of the country, because we want to establish that science can be communicated not only in English, but also almost in all Indian languages, English, Sanskrit, and Tamil. So with that concept, we developed the Bharati Vijnana Sammelan, and which is also held every year. Then we developed the Women's Science Congress. The concept was also very good. And we said that women have their own place in society, and the Women's Science Congress should be developed. And that essentially came as part of not Vijnana Bharati, but as part of the activities of Swadeshi Vijnana Andolana. And it is because of that we have been able to conduct 2 programs generally successful ones in Karnataka. One is Kannada Vijnana Sammelana, and the other is Women's Science Congress. We would appreciate if other units of Vijnana Bharati in various other states start the science congresses in their respective languages along with Women's Science Congress. We have science congress in Tamil, we have science congress in Malayalam, we had a science congress in Marathi at one time, we had science congress in Hindi several times, and the Delhi unit of Swadeshi Science Movement, they conduct a bilingual national seminar every 2 years. And there not only English papers, but Hindi papers are also presented. So that way we have been giving thrust not only to science in English, but also science in Bharatiya languages. We believe all Bharatiya science languages are capable of communication of knowledge in fullness. That means science, which is a modern advent of knowledge system, that also can be communicated in Indian languages, and we are working in that direction. Now, as far as other programs are concerned, we initiated what is called the World Ayurveda Congress, because Ayurveda is a traditional science. Ayurveda, along with probably the Siddha system and some other systems in the north, all of them together forms the backbone of Indian medical system or health science system. And we have been giving importance to that. Now, World Ayurveda Foundation has been formed and they continue the activity. Vijnana Bharati is not directly involved, only it is in the background. Similarly, we conducted the Bharati Heritage in Engineering Technology. Unfortunately, the scientists have not come forward to continue this activity. It is unfortunate. I hope the scientific friends should come forward and take up this, because we had from Harappan period onwards greatest achievements in not only science but also in engineering and technology. And that aspect also has to be presented to the world. It is very important to bring up the scientific heritage of the country in the limelight of modern knowledge. I think I have given you a background of the development of Swadeshi Science Movement. Later on, changing over to Vijnana Bharati and the foundation of this. We have not been able to do much with regard to many other aspects, but in future, people should come forward and analyze the whole thing and bring up the real concept, the 5-dimensional nature of Bharatiya sciences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of all the delegates, I thank Professor Vasu for taking us through the foundation of Swadeshi Science Movement, Vijnana Bharati. You will always be a motivation to all of us, sir. Moving forward, we will now have a brief about Swadeshi Vijnana Andolana, Karnataka, which will be given to us by Dr. Y.S. Gayatri, Treasurer and Founder Member, SWACK.
नमस्सभायै सभापतिभ्यश्च ॐ या देवी सर्वभूतेषु मातृरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः SWAK SWACK Swadeshi Andolana Karnataka is the Karnataka chapter of Vijnana Bharati, an all India organization which is the brainchild of Professor K.I. Vasu. The motto of the organization is to blend the ancient knowledge with the modern science and dedicate ourselves to bring our motherland in forefront in scientific and technological knowledge.
Your question for you. What are the 5 dimensions?
It was formed on 15th September 2004 with a handful of founder members. Day by day, SWACK is increasing its strength with the increase in the number of its members and strengthening its roots by more number of district units. The two major annual events of SWACK, Kannada Vijnana Sammelana and National Women's Science Congress, have become popular in and out of the state. The organization consists of all categories of members, from a common man to a scientist. Many of the members here are academicians. KVS Kannada Vijnana Sammelana celebrated commencing from 15th of September, that being the birth anniversary of Dr. M. Vishveshwaraya, a globally renowned engineer. On this occasion, people with remarkable achievements in different branches of science are awarded and honored with Vishveshwaraya Vijnana Puraskara, Bhimsen Joshi Puraskara for the finest performance in the field of music and arts, Dr. C.N.R. Rao Award in the field of modern science. We are having 12 wings for presentation of papers from agriculture to nanotechnology, from modern science to spiritual science, inclusive of all walks of life. It consists of Matravedike, Yuva Vidyarthi Vedike, Dhanvantari Vedike, and other wings. All the women members of SWACK are the members of Matravedike. Professor K.I. Vasu, founder and chief patron of Vijnana Bharati and SWACK, thinks that the fruit of all the researchers that are conducted and being conducted nationally and globally should reach to the grassroots level. Another major and prestigious event is National Women's Science Congress. That domain will be taken care by my good friend Dr. Kamala. We have many plans to execute, many dreams to bring into reality. We are planning to have the projects of compiling a dictionary of scientific terms from English to Kannada. We want to take up student-oriented programs like training, workshops, developing language skills, etc. My appeal in all of you is to join hands with us in achieving this by becoming members and help us to take the organization to a higher level by moving on this path. Thank you all for this opportunity and patient hearing. I thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. May I now invite Dr. Kamala, member SWACK, to give us a brief about Matruvedike, the Women Scientists Forum of Swadeshi Vijnana Andolana, Karnataka.
Yes, ma'am. I think you can all hear me. Good evening, and I'm here to give you a glimpse of Matruvedike. Matruvedike is the Women Scientists Forum of SWACK. The word Matru represents motherhood, which ennobles womanhood. Sri Adi Shankaracharya has rightly said, Kuputro jayeta kvachidape kumata na bhavati, which means there might be a bad son but no bad mother on this earth. She is the symbol of strength and energy. There is a man in women, but there is no woman in a man. Way back in our history, we have studied that women enjoyed a good position in the society with good education and was empowered with knowledge. Due to various reasons and changing circumstances, she was restricted to her home alone. Our organization has full of respect for womanhood and it wants her to come out to the limelight once again. With this intention, our Matruvedike is working. All the women members of SWACK are the members of this wing also. We conduct the major event, National Women's Science Congress, NWSC, under SWACK. It is conducted on the 7th of November every year to commemorate the birth anniversary of Madam Marie Curie and Dr. Sir C.V. Raman, both being Nobel laureates. The first National Women's Science Congress was held in the year 2008 and started to march ahead with progression till 2020. The National Women's Science Congress of the present calendar year 2020 was programmed to be held at CECRI of Karaikuri, Tamil Nadu. We all would have met there today if this pandemic has not occurred. On the occasion of National Women's Science Congress, 2 women scientists with their great achievement in the nation are honored with Marie Curie Mahila Puraskar and C.V. Raman Mahila Puraskar. The women's specialty of this program is that it will be conducted completely by women members with the help of male members of SWACK. However, male members will not share the dayas of this program even after extending their great support in making our program a grand success. We are planning to conduct more programs to satisfy the need of the hour. I request one and all to join hands along with us ahead, step by step, to reach our destiny. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Dr. Kamala.
Welcome, ma'am.
Moving on to our technical session for the evening.
Kavita madam, 1 minute. Now, can I request Dr. Kalaiselvi madam, Director of CSIR Karikudi, Secretary Karikudi ma'am, to have a few words about the conducting of a next National Women's Science Congress. Dr. Kalaiselvi ma'am.
Hello.
Ma'am, Kalaiselvi ma'am, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. Your video on. Switch on your video, ma'am.
Okay, sure.
Yes, please, ma'am.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity given. I think I'll be given 1 minute, right? Good to see all of you. I gratefully recall the precious moments wherein I was also honored with a kind of award from SWAK. And I'm really thrilled and excited to really follow up the activities of SWAK. And the biggest inspiration is, it goes without saying, that is Professor K.I. Vasu. At the age of 90 plus, he is really so particular that SWAK activities are to be conducted at any point of time and at any cost. Sir, I really salute your interest and your activities, and we always take you as our source of inspiration. And taking this opportunity, I just extend a very warm welcome to all the participants of today's event, that we are planning to have this kind of national level Women's Science Congress in the month of November, especially in the year 2021. So I look forward all of you for your physical presence, and let us all join together, celebrate it, enjoy it, and we will energize the momentum, and we will really make Professor Vasu and the entire SVAK team so happy and joyful. I really appreciate Ramesh sir all the time, like twins, like you and Professor Vasu. So good to see both of you. I really look forward every one of you in our premises next year by this time. And thank you so much for the opportunity given. I really look forward to the proceedings of today's lectures.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
Kavita,
so
ma'am.
much, ma'am. Looking forward to meeting you next year, all of us.
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you, ma'am. Thank you so much. To move forward, we will start off with our first speaker for the evening, Dr. N. Valarmati, an exceptional scientist who has been the project director of Radar Imaging Satellite 1 of ISRO. And to introduce our esteemed speaker, we have Dr. Jayashree Venkatesh, member Matruvedike. May I request you, madam, to take over?
Thank you very much. It's an honor and privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. N. Valarmati. Dr. N. Valarmati, an outstanding scientist from Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO. Retired as a deputy director from one of the major centers of ISRO, the U.R. Rao Satellite Center, located in Bangalore. Valarmati N. graduated in Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering from Madras University, Tamil Nadu, and obtained her ME in Communication Systems from Anna University, Tamil Nadu. Her career at ISRO started in 1984 and has contributed her service for development of various testing systems, the associated software, and also testing of the spacecrafts till its final launch. She has contributed significantly to various spacecrafts of ISRO, starting from IRS-1A, the first of the series of indigenous state-of-art remote sensing satellite that was successfully launched into the polar sun synchronous orbit on 17th March 1988. She has held various responsibilities in the project team and has the unique distinction of having worked on all the three kinds of satellites, that is the communication satellite, optical remote sensing satellite, and the microwave remote sensing satellite. She was the project director of the radar image satellite, RISAT-1, and India's indigenous built active microwave remote sensing satellite with many new technologies. Dr. N. Valarmati has supported the satellite programs under various functional responsibilities like Group Director of Digital Systems Group and Deputy Director of Controls and Digital Area, Program Director of Microwave Remote Sensing Satellite Program, and Deputy Director of Payload Data Management and Space Astronomy Area. She has been conferred with ISRO Merit Award in 2011, Team Excellence Award for the year 2012 for the Radar Imaging Satellite, and Performance Excellence Award for the year 2018. Madam has been presented with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award for contribution in the field of development of science, humanities, and welfare of the students of Tamil Nadu. She is a fellow of the Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, life member of the Astronomical Society of India and the Indian Society of Remote Sensing. On behalf of SVAK and all the participants, I invite our distinguished speaker, Dr. L. Valarmati, to present a lecture on satellites and applications, since there is always something in the sky awaiting discovery. Welcome, ma'am, and it's an honor to be introducing such a renowned personality. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Can I start? I am audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Oh, very nice.
I'll just put on your screen. I hope the screen is visible to all. You
Yeah.
can start, ma'am.
It is visible.
Yes, ma'am, you can start.
Yeah. Respected Professor Vasu, Madam Dr. Gayatri, a member.
Ma'am, please excuse me. Could you put on your video, please?
Video is on.
It's on? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Then members of all the units of India of Vijnana Bharati, members of SVK, distinguished participants, all the delegates who is participating today, very good afternoon to each and everyone. I am very glad. I will start my lecture with a happy note that just 1.5 hours before, ISRO has launched successfully a remote sensing satellite in space. I am very glad to announce this. I have selected the topic satellites and applications, keeping in mind this is one of the current topic where many nations are participating, many events are taking place, many activities are going on. So I thought to all the participants, just I would like to give the gist of the details, very brief. Further, some more details you will be familiarized if you go through on your own. So let us start the presentation. Can we go to next slide? Yeah. In my overview for the next half an hour, I will try to explain what is a satellite and its background, how the satellites are realized, a classification of the satellites, satellite applications, and what is a roadmap ahead, and what is the conclusion. Next slide. So, what is a satellite? Any body that moves around another one in a mathematically predictable path is a satellite. Now, there are two kinds of satellites. One is man-made satellite and natural satellite. All of you are aware, a natural satellite is nothing but moon is for Earth, and all other planets are having their own natural satellites. Man-made satellites are the satellites which we are launching. Someone may ask me, what is the difference between satellite and spacecraft? Both of them are same. If the mission is moving around a particular body, then it is called a satellite. Whereas spacecraft, also like a satellite, but it will be roaming in the space. It need not go around the space, any body in a predicted path. It will be in space and it will execute its operation. Can you go to next slide? So just to give the background, the first satellite, the Sputnik, was launched by Soviet Union in 1957. Imagine when it was started, satellite technology was started long back, from 60 years back. That means the people, those who started in 1957, definitely they should be genius only in those periods. From there only the satellite technologies has got developed further, and today we have achieved very good maturity. And the satellites are classified in many categories. I will explain to you people how the categories are formed. And these satellites are based on the category. They will give us various applications. That application is limitless. I am underlining the word limitless because I will explain it later why it is limitless. So far, around 6,000 satellites plus are in orbit. They are known to us. And generally, satellites are made for the given requirement, for what we need. That requirements are kept in mind, and it is being launched by the launch vehicle in the orbit. And the satellite as a standalone body, it has got its own resources for its operation. That means it has got its own power generation, fuel for its life. It can communicate to Earth. It can send the data. It can switch on the camera, take the photograph. It can store so many functions. Maybe I will touch upon after some time. So on its own, it has got its own resources for its operation. Then we go to next slide. Just to tell about the space agencies, let us start with our Indian space agency is called ISRO. NASA, everyone must be aware, in US, and Russia has got Roscosmos, and China is having its own space agency. They are all very powerful space agencies. Japan has got JAXA. ESA is Europe countries together. They formed one agency. Canadian Space Agency. This why I have mentioned this Canadian Space Agency, mostly they deal on microwave remote sensing, because always snow or ice used to be there. They cannot use optical satellite. That they are also powerful. And Germany, CNES, UK space agencies, Italian space agencies, like this, so many are going on. In internet itself, I could see around 50 or more than 50 which are listed in the internet page. But nowadays, other than these space agencies, we are seeing many private agencies are also playing a very big role. Now, in this slide, ISRO is at more or less at par with many international space agencies, and as Indian, we are all to be proud of that achievement. Can you go to next slide? Yeah. So when we tell about satellite, these are the things in a nutshell I have explained to you. To start with, the satellite is not a simple system. It's a very complex, very hardware intensive, software intensive, and also it's a complex system. To start with, we need a structure to build the spacecraft. Then it has want its mechanism to rotate its arms, open that antenna panel, so many things. Thermal system in space, when it is seeing a sun, the other side is the cold sky, it has to control its overall temperature of all the systems. The propulsion system, which is used to propel the spacecraft either to increase the height or decrease the height or move right or left, the propulsion systems are used. Power system to support all the subsystem of spacecraft. It has got its own power system. That means solar panels to generate the power and also battery to support the system. Communication systems, it has to communicate to ground. So they have got receiver, transmitter, through antenna, they are able to communicate to any station in ground. Onboard controller, to manage all these things, we need a controller or a computer in on orbit, which will collect information from all the other systems, and sometimes it will take its own decision, which is pre-planned on ground by the concerned designers, and it controls the total spacecraft. Sensors. See, we want to know the attitude of the spacecraft. If there is a disturbance in the body, the sensors will indicate where exactly the deviation is taking place with respect to its orientation. So to correct that, we have got actuators which will fire the concerned actuators and correct the attitude of the platform. We have got payload. Payload is nothing but the scientific instrument in terms of remote sensing satellite. For communication satellite, it is a transponder. This is the one, the important element which will do its function in space. And the payload data to be handled by a system, and it has to be transmitted to ground. If it is not visible, the data should be stored in the recorder, and later it has to be played back and sent to ground whenever we want that. So these are the systems. Imagine each one itself is a big complex system. It has got its own complexity, all to be integrated, married to form a final satellite. Maybe in a quick coming slides, I will give you the gist of the details, how it is getting be realized. Can we go to next slide? Yeah. This is one artistic view of one satellite, but just to keep it in mind, it is nothing but AstroSat, what we have launched. that blue and that pink, whatever you are seeing, they are all telescopes. And these telescopes will look at the sky and find out the scientific information. So if you see what are the systems I have explained in the previous slide are all put together as a single satellite system, and it will be launched into the orbit of the satellite is also fixed. So finally, the launch vehicle will take the spacecraft to its designated orbit. Can you go to next slide? So I have told you some of the things. The right side, what you are seeing, that four round type of thing, they are all cameras which will take the photograph from orbit. These colors are indicating the different types of bands. That means that when you get the reflected light from the sun, some of the bands will be allowed by some of the detectors. So from that we can form different type of images. The left side, what you are seeing is one of the actuators. They are nothing but wheels. When there is a disturbance in the spacecraft, the wheels are rotated mathematically as per the calculation to bring the platform back to normal. And the last one, what you are seeing is some of the electronic systems which will undergo thorough testing in the chamber. Can we go to next slide? Yeah, here. The left side, what you are seeing is nothing but the onboard computer. This onboard computer systems will have different versions. Depends upon the satellite size and other things. So this is one of the samples, whatever I am showing here. The second one, the center one is nothing but battery. It depends upon the capacity of the spacecraft. How much, what should be the battery capacity for the given spacecraft will be worked out. The other one, right side, what you are seeing is nothing but the wheel system. It is mounted on a deck. Can you go to next slide? So this is nothing but RISAT project where I have worked. I have taken the responsibilities. And this particular satellite, just it gives the exploded view of all the systems. Suppose if you disintegrate the spacecraft, how the systems are arranged and integrated, and finally all will be integrated with the main structure. And next slide. Yeah, this is a final view of the spacecraft in orbit. But before flying, the spacecraft has to be accommodated in PSLV vehicle. Can you go to next slide? Yeah, this is the realization part. See, right side, what you are seeing is nothing but the satellite structure. This is one of the satellite structure I have taken. What you are seeing the left side is nothing but one of the panels of the structure. In one of the panels, so many electronic systems have been placed. So here it is, both mechanical integration and electrical integrations are involved. So these activities are very, very critical and crucial activities. You see the wires for interconnecting the test packages for testing purpose. It's very, very complex. Any mistakes will create a big trouble and it will impact our schedule also. So first, panel by panel, all integrations will be carried out, thoroughly tested. Then those systems will be integrated with the spacecraft. This is called a disassemble mode test. Can we go to next slide? Disassemble mode test. Now you see it is the next level of disassemble mode. This satellite structure is at the center. All around all panels, systems will be integrated, and interconnecting cables, enormous volume of the cable will be flowing, and the test engineer should be very, very careful in monitoring the parameter, finding out the fault, troubleshooting, and how to correct it. There are so many tasks involved. All are very, very critical tasks. So here mainly we do the verification of interfaces, all electrical functional test, and the software verification, and all other logic checks. There are very, very big charts of test procedures and test parameters, all pre-planned one, everything to be completed. Can we go to next slide? Next one is assemble mode. When we come to assemble mode, all verification of interfaces will be completed. The same thing will be repeated in assembled mode by removing the buffer cables. Now all systems will be interconnected by their own space harness. Can we go to next slide? So once assemble mode all tests have been completed means it is ready for next level of test. This is one of the important tests. What you are seeing is nothing but a chamber, a thermo-vacuum chamber. See, when spacecraft is in space, all systems are expected to undergo variation in temperature, that is from -10 to 50°C. So we would like to know in the integrated spacecraft level, when the spacecraft is seeing the temperatures, all systems should function properly. It is around 30 days or 35 days test, round the clock test. It will not be put off. People will come in shift and continuously we have to monitor the performance of the spacecraft over the temperature. It's a very important test. Once the test is passed, if we are satisfied with the parameters, then the satellite is ready for launch. Can we go to next slide? Now, some of the satellites will call for some special test. That is solar panel. We cannot deploy it the first time in space. So we have to check its performance on ground. There is a special fixtures are available. We have to use the fixtures to deploy the solar panel, and end to end, when sensor is having error, what are the actuators are getting triggered. So this is nothing but end to end test. We used to have some simulation and do the test. And some places, if antennas are there, we have to find out whether the radiation pattern is okay or not. And when so many systems are integrated with a given small volume, we would like to know what is the EMA, EMC test results also. So everywhere the test has to pass with respect to its performance. And we'll go to the next step. Can you go to next step? Once the satellite is ready, then we used to get the launcher compatibility test. It is nothing but the launcher adapter, where the satellite will sit on the tip of the launch vehicle. It will be available. We have to check. It is called match made test. So once the test is over, then it is cleared for further activities with the launcher. Then as a standalone test, the spacecraft will undergo vibration test. This is to qualify the system at the time of launch. When it is integrated with the spacecraft, launcher, that means a PSLV or GSLV, there will be a vibration in that during the launch time. So that vibration should be absorbed by all subsystems and it has to work as per the specification. The same way acoustic test also, during launch time, there will be a big, huge loud of noise will be generated. All systems, mainly the solar panels and all, should not tear off with respect to that levels and other things. So all those parameters are dictated by the concerned vehicle, that is PSLV or GSLV. The numbers will vary. With respect to that numbers, the satellite will be subjected to the special test and it will be cleared before shifting to Sriharikota. Next. So now, after going to Sriharikota from Bangalore, we are having a quick look check. It is called a pre-launch test. Then only fuel will be filled up. Then it will be handed over to PSLV, GSLV team. It will be mated with the launcher. Then finally, it will be launched. Just you see the left side, there is a special container, transportation container, which is used to transport the satellite to a launch pad, wherever it goes. So this container itself is a special container and it has got specification and it has got its own performance parameters. So with that, we will transport the satellite. Can you go to next slide? So now you assume satellite has put it in orbit. So once it is in orbit, it will go for its own auto operation. Solar panel will be deployed and it will see the sun to generate the power. It will see the earth to get the commands. There is nothing but earth and sun acquisition. These are the standard functions to be fulfilled by the spacecraft immediately after launch. Can you go to next slide? Now, when it is after launch, it will be taken over by the satellite control center. Our satellite control center is in Bangalore for IRS mission, in Hassan for our communication satellite. So this station will send commands and it will get the health parameters from the spacecraft and accordingly it will plan the course of actions. Can we go to next slide? So once everything is fine, the communication and the payload operation will begin. For example, communication means it has its own transponders. The services will begin. You see the picture. See, you can see the classrooms are available from the ground station, video plus audio. This is nothing but space education. So it reaches a spacecraft. From there again, it has been retransmitted to all the classes located at various places. If it is a remote sensing satellite, we will go for images and also concerned data. Space exploration means we will get all science data from space. Can we go to next slide? Just wait. See, now you see this is a spacecraft. Usually the spacecraft is allowed to rotate in the orbit. Whenever it comes over India, you can see the this one. This is the way it takes the pictures of the terrain of our any landmass. So from there, the next slide. After getting the data, the data will be processed and finally we will get the image. Next slide. So when it is in on orbit, we want to always continuously control the satellite health, and regularly we will switch on the payload, and people will review its performance now and then, and it's based on the fuel availability, the life of the spacecraft will be determined. Next one. Okay, now so far what I have told is that the spacecraft, what is the complexity involved, what type of quality we have to maintain, if there is an error, what type of implications we will have. There are so many things we have seen. This is the life cycle of the spacecraft. But this is only just I have told. In fact, we have got many reviews and many action item closeout, so many expected events to be completed during the realization phase. Now, really, we are coming into the topic. So we are launching so many satellites. For what we are launching, what it means, really whether we are getting the benefit, those areas only I am going to address. Now, this is common to all space agencies. Throughout the world, people are making spacecraft the same line and they are all enjoying the fruit. Now and then I will use our ISRO example just to brief the details to you. So classification wise, if you see, again, it is a broad classification. Minute way also we can do it, but let me just give the overview. See, there are the satellites are called communication satellite, remote sensing satellite. It may be optical whenever sun is there. If sun is not there, it is a microwave, because no sunlight means we cannot take image. Microwave means it will have its own source. It will transmit and get the reflected light back. And the scientific mission. Then nowadays military satellites are also available. Astronomy satellite, navigation satellite, interplanetary mission, weather satellites, cargo ship, which will take food or other items to other space station, and as such space station itself is a satellite. Now these satellites, you may ask how they classify. See, these satellites are classified because of its orbit, because of its application. Based on the application only, the sensors will be selected. The operating frequency of the sensors also determine the satellite type, and altitude also determines, and size of the satellite. If it is a very big satellite, it is a I2K, I3K, I4K like that. If it is a small 10 kg, 100 kg, 400 kg and all called nano satellite, cube satellite and small satellites. And the life of the satellite also determines which comes under which class of the spacecraft. Can you go to next slide? Okay, now I have explained various types of satellites. Now whatever I have shown is launched by ISRO, and all categories are covered in this slide. So we have got remote sensing satellite, we have got nano satellite, we have got communication satellite, Megatropics IRS mission. GSAT-4 is nothing but our communication satellite. So all satellites, finally when it gets realized, it will look like this. Can you go to next slide? Yeah. Now I'm going to concentrate first communication satellite. Why do we need satellite? This is a basic question. Many people will ask, just you see the left side. we always use radio frequencies to transmit our signal to from one point to another point. Suppose if it is transmitted, it can vary. For example, a simple example I will start. When we speak, our neighbor can hear me a little, and next to my neighbor, he cannot hear me. That is because my audio signal is getting faded. Similar way, it is applicable for RF signals, micro signals, anything. What happens whenever we transmit, it cannot travel more than a line of sight. So for that purpose, we want to have the communication for a long distance. For that purpose only satellite, the coverage will be more. That was the aim of the communication satellite. Now you can see from the globe left side, one station is there. From there, it will go to spacecraft. From there, you can see the arrow. It will come to the another station in the other side. This is the function of communication satellite. Can you go to next slide? So this is further in detail. There is a communication satellite located in space. From left side, you can see any user can uplink the arrow mark you see. It will go to the spacecraft. From there, simultaneously, it can offer the service to many ground stations. So communication satellites are artificial satellites that relay. It is only relay. It doesn't do any functions. It will receive it and send it back to other stations, retransmit the signal to other stations. Now they commonly they used to be placed in geostationary orbit. Why geostationary orbit? There are so many things. Maybe you can refer it back after the lecture. The geostationary orbit is nothing but it is located just above the equatorial line. The period of the spacecraft is controlled such that it will rotate at the same period of Earth. What it means? Always the satellite will be visible to Earth. It will see the same point on ground. Because of that, our communication will be seamless. There won't be any disturbance. So generally, it is placed in the geostationary orbit. Can you go to next slide? So what I have explained is nothing but only geo satellite, how it works. Now, real application wise, if you see, it is called fixed satellite service. Fixed satellite service means the communication satellites are used to transmit broadband digital communication. For example, today we are sitting in Bangalore and we are able to see the sports activity happening in all other nations. It is nothing but because of that FSS service. The same way we can see the news conference happening at some other country or some other region, all through this type of satellite transponders only. The second one is BSS. BSS is nothing but broadcast satellite service. This is sitting in our home with our own antenna. We are able to get whatever signal we want from whatever signal from anywhere. So it reaches the house directly. It is nothing but satellite TV and radio to home. So some transponders are dedicated for this purpose, and this will do the broadcast service to all the all the people in the society. Now, next application is meteorology. That means it's indirectly we can call it as weather satellite in geo orbit. It used to study the formation of cloud, ocean temperature, snow levels. I think earlier we used to see them the meteorological photo, like the climate photo in news and other places. They used to display. It is nothing but every day, once in half an hour, we would like to know what is the weather condition, how the climates are, how the clouds are looking, whether it will rain or not. All informations will be available through this particular sensor. Then the fourth one is MSS. MSS is nothing but mobile communication. The mobile communication means, suppose if there is a mobility in some of the services, they have to talk to each other. So this is being served by MSS. See, when I tell MSS, BSS, FSS means there are separate frequency band is allotted for this service. Within the given band, these services should be utilized or availed. Now, the next one is it is used for DRT, data relay transmission. Data relay transmission means there was one transponder inside 2A. Some throughout the world, India, we have got some 115 stations, small stations, which will give the local temperature. That local temperature used to be transmitted to the spacecraft will collect all the information and it will download to IMD at Delhi. So they can find out what exactly is happening throughout India, how is the climate, what are the temperature dispersion, or indirectly it gives the weather of our country. Another one is search and rescue. Search and rescue is nothing but it is a small handheld transmitter people will have. Mainly it is for fishermen. If there are some problem, they will give the search and rescue signal to send the signal to spacecraft. It will give it to the concerned operator room. From there, they can make out what exactly the problem. It's a beautiful service, and it was used, and people have got benefited also. Can we go to next slide? This is satellite application. I will go through quickly. This is a mobile satellite system. It helps connect the remote regions, vehicles, ships, aircraft, and people to other parts of the world. Next one. Now communication, just we got some idea what are the advantages of communication. It's very limited, only projected. There are many more things why I am telling. At the end of my slide, I can explain. Then remote sensing satellite, generally it is kept in polar orbit, that is from north to south. The remote sensing satellite will be moving north to south. And right side, if you see, what I have told is that active sensor, optical sensor, another one is passive remote sensing satellite. So the active sensor directly, it will pick the signal, reflected signal from sun, and it will give the images of the terrain. The bottom one is microwave sensor. You see the arrow mark. It sends a signal, gets a reflected signal back, and again it will collect the data, send back to ground station for further processing. These are the basic principle of remote sensing satellites working nature. Can we go to next slide? So now you see, so the right side, if we see remote sensing instruments, it collects information from at a distance, at a remote place, and it generally used to observe Earth's surface. Indirectly, it will give safety and also improves the quality of our life. This particular remote sensing satellite, it can be in geo or in polar orbit. And the applications wise, varieties are there. Again, I will cover. The left side, what you are telling is it's only sample plot. Imagine it stopped up to 2010. I will leave it to you for your imagination. 2019 or 2020, where we will stand. To start with, the resolution was 100 meter, and now it touched to 1 meter. Further, it improved. Now, when I tell resolution, it is nothing but if it is 5 meter resolution, you are able to see a car. If it is 2 meter resolution, you can see one bullet, one bike. If it is 1 meter resolution, you can see one small, maybe one table, small table or chair or something like that. So resolution means it will give you the how closely you are resolving the object. It is called a resolution. So nowadays we are getting very improved resolutions. Okay, go to next slide. So the remote sensing applications, mainly it falls under agriculture. In agriculture, when whatever I will show some of the pictorial representation, you can appreciate. So crop inventory and yield prediction, and we can monitor the health of the plants. And in the area of geology, it will give where oil is there, where mineral is there, and all resources can be explored. And cartography, town planning, when you take the photograph of a particular city, the people can plan where exactly the sewage line to be routed, where exactly the gas pipeline to be routed. Based on that picture, people can do the planning. It is not possible with the aerial. This one at a time, you can have some type of 4 kilometer, 5 kilometer image can be taken by spacecraft. But if it is through aircraft, at the maximum you can have some, depends upon the sensor, very limited swath only you can cover. That is the advantage of satellite. And the environment climate study can be studied using the remote sensing satellite. And nowadays, people are using it for defense and security. They generally, we generate the map, and using that map, we can do the target monitoring and also detection. Can you go to next slide? Now, this is one of the forestry. Now, you can imagine recently we are hearing forest fire, wildfire in Australia. We had in, I think we are hearing it, it is happening in Amazon forest and in California, so many places. And it is in terms of this many acres, people are telling. This many acres, when they are able to estimate, it is nothing but using satellite imagery only. Imagine if the satellite is not there, this much vast area, we cannot be in a position to find out what exactly the damage, what how the forest health, and what is the further activities are needed to take care of that eventuality. All those things can be achieved through remote sensing images, satellite images. Can you go to next slide? See, for example, I have told remote sensing for weed development. See, for example, in the plant agriculture, if you see, this is one small field. People have taken the photograph, satellite image. This is a satellite image. You can see the nature of the good crop and also. Can you go to next slide? Can you go to next slide? The area we can estimate, and nature of the disease also we can work out. Can you go to next slide?
Yes.
See now, a very beautiful one. See, suppose if the farmer is seeing the plant, his view will be like this, the left side first top image. Suppose if you see the right side, this is the satellite. It will take the total field. If you see the processed data from the satellite image, you can make out the processed data. The original information happened in the field. Can we go to next slide? So this many steps are involved in finding out the final data. This is one of the examples of cartography of remote sensing satellite. You can see the satellite is able to extract the slum dwelling. Where are the places it is happening? The same way water body it can we go to next slide? It can extract and tell. Okay, now suppose the left side top image, you see we are having so many satellites, multi-sensors but constellation, data, varieties of data. If you merge fusion, it is called fusion. If you merge all the data, then you will get wonderful information. So always try to have more number of satellites to get the seamless information. Can we go to the next slide? This is another example of urban trees extraction. All are coming from satellite data only. It's up to the processing software how we are going to extract the information and give the further processed details to the user. That is more important. There only I am stressing data are available. It depends upon the capability of our processing software or our intellectual thinking. It will give the wanted information, unknown information. It's really, it's really very challenging. Can you go to next one? So, another water extraction. All are from remote sensing satellite only, images, processed data. Can we go to next one? Okay. Now another satellite. I am very, very proud to tell that ISRO has launched the astronomical satellite. It is called AstroSat. More than 8 years over. It is having only X-ray payloads, hard X-ray, soft X-ray, medium X-ray. All payloads are working very well, and it is used to observe some of the happenings in space and monitor the distant stars and other phenomena which is taking place now and then. And one example is the Hubble telescope internationally. It is being launched by NASA, and it has enabled the scientists to see many things and also conclude many facts. Can we go to the next page? another category is navigation satellites. The navigation satellite, all of you know that we are all having GPS in our handset. The GPS, the position of the position of the GPS receiver carrier, no, it is exactly determined using this GPS satellite. Right now, the GPS satellites are in hot topic. Everyone is interested in GPS, and many more things are being achieved using these satellites. These satellites, around 24 satellites are in space. And the left side figure shows how the satellites are arranged in different planes. To know our position on ground, we need to have minimum 4 satellites out of these 24 satellites to give the accurate information. Mathematically, if you go through the details, you can appreciate how it is being found out, and it is with what accuracy. Can we go to next slide? So this is again, I am giving the application of navigation receiver. It will give with high precision current local time and also our position, direction, everything. And GPS satellites constellations are belong to US. GLONASS is Russia. IRNS is, I am proud to say, it is from ISRO, and we have got from ESA, Galileo satellites. Even China also, they are having their own navigational satellites. To get accurate position, minimum we need 4 satellites, and this application is being used by automobiles, aircraft for landing purpose, boats and ships to identify their position, and heavy equipments for transportation purpose, and many climbers, hikers, unknown places where they are there, they have to identify. In fact, our spacecraft also uses GPS receivers to identify its own position in space. Can you go to next slide? So weather satellite, this weather satellites, it can be a remote sensing satellite or it can be a geo mission. And this weather satellites today, we don't know, we are all not very much aware of the details. So many satellites are collecting data, mainly microwave payloads are doing very good service in this area. And many scientists, I appreciate the scientists who are interested to know the snow movement, and also they know that climate change, cloud movement, they used to do the modeling, and there are so many papers being released on this topic based on the satellite imageries. Only we should have enough knowledge to appreciate their R&D, and indirectly today, whatever warnings we are getting, whatever alert messages we are getting, what will be in another 10 years, everything is being determined by the model, by many scientists. Let us go through the paper and appreciate it, and it is from the satellite images. Can we go to next slide? And interplanetary missions, this is one simple example, Mom, I have told. Now, interplanetary missions wise, everyone is aware. US is participating, ESA is participating, China is participating, Japan is participating, and Russia is participating. Some all developing countries, developed countries, many countries are participating, and we are also one among them. And we have successfully achieved our Chandrayaan-1 mission in the past. Chandrayaan-2 also partially, one system had some observation. Chandrayaan-2 is, Chandrayaan-3 is getting ready now. Now, next one is MOM. MOM was a great achievement. And if you ask, why do you want interplanetary mission? What you want to know from the satellite images? For example, Earth-wise, if you see, it is already now we have got resources are depleting now. Now it's a time for us to find out resources from other planets. Quickly, we have to know what exactly is happening, what is the climatic situation, atmospheric condition, any resources are available. So to understand the status of the planet, we have got 15 scientific instruments in MOM, and what are the instruments on orbiter right now? MOM orbiter, all are working very well, and we are able to get the continuous images from them. And right now, some missions for Venus is under plan, and many other countries, they have launched so many satellites to Saturn, Moon, Titan. Titan and Jupiter. This is going on. It is necessary that we should also play a role in knowing the living atmosphere of other planets and all other characteristics of the planet. And also we should be at par with all other technologies, what is happening internationally. We cannot take a back seat. We have to move forward and prove our technologies and our knowledge. Can we go to next slide? So now what is ahead? So this is my perception, whatever I have understood. Today, we are looking for a vehicle, a car without a driver. It has to be operated automatically. You must be knowing what is expected to do that. So we need a variety of sensors to support all our satellite programs. Sensors, it's an open-ended one. Whatever we have got limited sensors, and there are so many sensors. So sensors means nothing but camera. Camera is nothing but detectors. Bands of detectors available, and so many science instruments, X-ray, and even in science also we have got basic physics supporting instruments. There are so many, they are all called sensors. So we have to look for varieties of sensors and new technologies to support the application, and many more new dimension of our new thinking of applications should come in our mind. Anything is possible, only we have to coin the applications. So we have to always continuously to think about the new things and put it on paper, try to achieve it. Then only we will get the next era in our satellite technology. The third one is there is a competition among the space agencies. All are doing very good work. We should be also at par with them. And in future, we have got so much to be studied on ocean, because Earth, if you see, only 25% is land, 75% is ocean. Ocean has got so much resources. No one knows what is there, how we can effectively utilize the resources. So the ocean to be nicely studied, and we have to understand about Earth atmosphere for our quality of our life. In future, if you deploy so many satellites, we will get terabytes of information, a huge volume of the data, and what it calls for data processing. See, today we have got enough data from all spacecrafts from space. Now, how much data processing we are doing, how much we are equipped to do the processing, how much more to be done. One data, if you give, you should be in a position to give 100 parameters out of all the data, and 100 findings should be given. Our processing should be that much powerful. It should be a focused way. It calls for youngsters dedicated time, dedicated knowledge, lateral thinking, and continuous hard work. That's why the challenges are open. It is available today. Now, depends upon the processing, your application. That's why I told the application is enormous. It will take its own different dimensions, multiple dimensions it will take. We can get so many valuable informations from the spacecraft data. And what we need in future is not one satellite, we need satellite constellation. Because of we are in need of seamless data. So if constellations are there, only always satellites will be visible in space, and it can cover our area, and continuously data can be transmitted. The formation flying is nothing but if 4 satellites are flying together, 4 or any numbers, it will make a big sensor in space. So that data is having different application. And docking is nothing but 2 satellites should shake hand in space. There are so many new technologies are existing, and we have to capture the technology, and we have to prove ourselves. And another one is proper mitigation techniques of bringing back the dead satellites. We should not allow debris in space. That area also to be concentrated. Today, if you see how much we have achieved in space, is we have sent space probes. I think human in Earth. We have sent it to Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and asteroid. Some missions are also placed at a place to monitor the sun performance, also sun characteristics. So from 1957, the achievement is very great and lot more to be done, long way to go. We need enough energy to achieve all those things. Next slide. So this is my personal view. Today, we are all addicted with the satellite services. Knowingly or unknowingly, we are using it in our daily life. Imagine if you don't have that satellite applications, how the life will be. To improve our life further, we need many more technologies and many more achievements in that field. The second one is we have got a strong foundation which is being laid by our Indian space program. For example, we are having the capability of making our satellites. We are having the capability of launching our own satellite. We don't depend on other rockets from other countries to launch our satellites. And we have got our own scientists who is capable of processing the data and finding out the core information from the image. All expertise are available, so we can do many more things in this area. So what it calls for, we need strong participation from each and everyone, and with a team spirit and also with a patriotism. Why we should do it? Why not? If you find something, it is an achievement of the nation. In the globe, you will have different type of identity, and I assure each one is capable of doing if they apply their mind. And finally, my humble request is the technology to be used for the benefit of mankind, not for any destructive purpose. So this is the one what I felt from my experience and my enjoyment. I mean, after enjoying my work. Thank you very much for patient listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Jayashree, please
Yes,
unmute yourself.
Madam, your talk was highly motivating. In my introduction, I said there is always something in the sky awaiting discovery. But madam, after listening to you, sky is a limit for exploration. Yes. And again, ocean is possibly the limit for exploration. So you have explained the vastness of the application of the satellites. And you have given and you have made the very basic layman to understand the nitty-gritty of the satellite. At the same time, you have also given us the overview of the complexity of the satellite. Madam, you are a huge motivation for all Indians. You are a huge motivation for all the women scientists, women in particular, madam. Your speech, your talk was highly inspiration to all of us. And we look forward to even the younger generation to be inspired by you. And we wish you all the luck. And thank you for being a speaker for this particular dais. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Jayashree, for taking us through this session. To the participants, we will take up the questions after the next session at the end of the next talk, because our next speaker is also ready. We have with us Padma Shri Professor Rohini Godbole, and to introduce her, we have Dr. Jyoti Lakshmi, member Matruvedike. Dr. Jyoti. Dr. Jyoti, can you come online? Dr. Jyoti. Rohini madam, can you just see if your presentation can come on screen?
Hello. Okay, I'll share the screen.
Yes, ma'am. So we'll just check before we start off. Yeah, Jyoti is on. line?
Yeah. Can you see my
Yes,
screen?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We can
Okay,
see your
very
screen.
good.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
shall I stop sharing or shall I continue?
We can stop, ma'am. We'll just introduce you before you can.
Yeah, one moment. Let me
Yes,
just.
ma'am. Yes.
I have to see how to stop. Ah, yeah. Stop share. That's
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Jyoti, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. It's my honor and privilege to introduce our esteemed guest for the day and the distinguished speaker, Dr. Rohini Godbole. She is professor at Indian Institute of Science and Padma Shri Awardee 2019. So Dr. Rohini Godbole did her BSc in 1972 from Pune University with first rank and completed her MSc in 1974 from Indian Institute of Technology, Hawaii, with first rank and Institute silver medal, and completed her PhD from State University of New York at Stony Brooks, USA, and got her DLit from SNDT Women's University, Mumbai in 2013. So she superannuated from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and is now an honorary professor at the Center for High Energy Physics there. Has been a staff associate at ASI CTP, a visiting professor at the University of Dortmund, Germany, CERN Geneva, DESY Hamburg, and University of Utrecht, Netherlands. Most recently, Van der Waals Chair at the University of Amsterdam. So she worked extensively on different aspects of particle phenomenology over the past 3 decades, authoring about 300 research publications in referred journals and e-prints, author of graduate level monographs and textbooks on advanced topics for PhD students and researchers in particle physics. She is an elected fellow of all the 3 science academies of India, INSA, IASC, and NASI, as well as the World Academy of Sciences. She has been chief editor, Raman, Indian Journal of Physics from 2008 to 2016, and associate editor from 1998 to 2008, vice president of NASI Advisory Board, Oxford Research Encyclopedia for Physics, member High Energy Physics Advisory Panel USA. She has won so many awards into her credits. Most recent ones are Padma Shri from the Government of India in 2019, the Distinguished Alumnus Award from the Indian Institute of Science, Hawaii, Technology, Hawaii, S.N. Bose Medal for the INSA for Theoretical Physics, Meghnad Saha Award for Physics for the Asiatic Society of India, DSP J.C. Bose Fellowship for the Government of India, R.D. Birla Award of the Indian Physics Association. So she worked towards pioneering a variety of programs at various capacities to raise awareness on the subject of women in science, co-edited a book, Leelavati's Daughter, Women Scientists of India, containing biographical sketches of about 100 women scientists of India, released in December 2005, and also a book called A Girl's Guide to a Life in Science, containing material to inspire young girls to take up a life in science. She also directed survey, Train Scientific Women Power, has been chair of INSA and IAS panel for women in science and member of the same for AASSA, and that is Association of Asian Societies and Academies of Science. Madam, we are honored to have you among us today. So you have been guiding force for all the activities at SWACK, and you have handheld us in various activities that we have conducted in past. So it is my pleasure to invite you on my behalf and on the behalf of SWACK. I request you to take over the session. Rohini ma'am?
Yeah.
Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I would like to begin this talk by thanking Professor Vasu, who has been ably guiding the Swadeshi science movement through the decades. And he is the first one who introduced me to this excellent forum. So I'm indeed very happy to join you people today in this forum. And I was listening to the talk that was given for the past 1 hour. And there she was trying to tell you how we explore the space. And now what I am going to do today is I'm going to talk to you about another subject, about how we look inside the matter. More than that, how our knowledge about what is the matter made up of actually helps us to understand some of the mysteries of the space, some of which get exposed to us through, for example, experiments which these satellites carry, which, for example, were mentioned by the speaker before. So the title of my talk is Dark Matter in the Universe. What is it and how do we look at it at the Large Hadron Collider called the LHC? So I will begin by talking to you about, in this order, I will tell you a few things about the subject of particle physics, and that's essentially singing the praises of a model which we call the standard model, and I will tell you what it is in a few seconds. And then for particle physicists, we ask the question, is there life after the discovery of the Higgs boson now about 10 years ago at the Large Hadron Collider? And then I will come to the subject of my talk today, namely the dark matter, which I write most of the time as DM, as that's the one of the next frontier to cross. And the question is, what can the Large Hadron Collider do to cross this frontier? How did the Large Hadron Collider help to cross this frontier? So to begin with, since not everybody will know it, let me begin with saying, what is the subject of particle physics? So the particle physics is actually just the subject of what are the elementary constituents of everything around us, and how these elementary constituents, particles, are put together so that we see everything that is around us, including ourselves. And the accepted worldview, which particle physicists have achieved in the last, I would say, 7 to 8 decades, is that the most fundamental constituents of matter are quarks and the leptons. Now I will go in the next slide and I will explain these words. And these objects interact with each other by exchanging forces. But the funny part is that those fundamental forces are also carried by particles again. And these particles, we call them the bosons. And some of the names you have heard, some photon, for example, everybody knows. And the other names, sometimes you have read in the newspapers when they were discovered, for example, the Higgs boson and the W and the Z bosons, you hear them once in a while, and gluons actually you don't know at all. But right now, the world of particle physics has kind of described, if you like, the periodic table of the world of particles. Like there is a periodic table that you are familiar with, which was put forward by Mendeleev, how elements, which were the fundamental elements which made matter. What particle physics does is it talks about how are the atoms of those different elements made. And what we know now is that the atoms are made up of electrons and nuclei. Nuclei are made up of neutrons and protons. The neutrons and protons are made up of quarks in the end. And that's why the entire world is made up of quarks and electrons, because obviously electrons and nuclei make atoms. And then in the world of particle physics, there exists many objects similar to this electron or similar to the quarks which make up a neutron and a proton. And that entire set are the fundamental particles. And over the last 8 decades, particle physicists have been able to catalog them. Now, you will actually say, okay, so maybe this is of importance and interest. So 10,000 particle physicists in the world. Why are you bothering me with this? In which way is it important to me if I'm not interested in knowing what makes everything around us? Though it's unlikely that we won't be interested in it, but for sake of arguments, let me take that. So if for sake of arguments, I say that why should it be interested to people who are not particle physicists. And that the reason for that is written on this slide. What this says is that the laws of particle physics, which we have found to be functioning at the distance scales of Fermis and smaller. And Fermi, all of you know, Fermi is the size of a nucleus, 10 to the minus 13 centimeters. And the laws of particle physics, which we have discovered over the last 5 decades, 8 decades, which we find to be functioning at distance scales of nuclei and smaller, they seem to be of relevance in telling us about things that happen on cosmological time scales, that means the beginning of the universe, or astronomical distance scales, which means millions of megaparsecs and beyond in space. So these are indeed questions that attract the curiosity of the entire humankind. What are the questions? That these laws of particle physics that we are looking at actually help us understand some very fundamental questions. How was everything was ever formed in this universe? How did the nucleons, that is the neutrons and the protons, get formed in the first place? And how did after that the hydrogen or oxygen or for that matter helium, etc., how did they form? So the question, not only this, but can we explain the relative abundance of different elements in the universe? You know, some of you might have read newspaper items where suddenly they said, we know how heavy metals are made in the stars. So how gold is made in the stars. Now, in understanding, believe it or not, in understanding and getting answers to such questions, how did the stars form? How did the galaxies form? Of course, we use a lot of astrophysics, but along with that astrophysics, what we need is these laws of particle physics. And they are equally important to help us get answers to these very, very important and basic questions which drive about which the entire, humankind is always been curious about. And the funny part is that when I said that these laws are able to show us this, give us answers to this question or help us get answers to this question, what we need at that time is what we call the known physics of the standard model of particle physics. That is, the laws of particle physics are encoded, and that word which describes all the laws of particle physics in one word, we will call it standard model of particle physics. So that's what standard model of particle physics is all about. It describes these fundamental particles, that this is sort of the periodic table of the fundamental particles. And here is what I have already mentioned, that 2 up quarks and 1 down quark make a proton, 2 down quarks and 1 up quark make a neutron, protons and neutrons make nuclei, nuclei along with the electrons make atoms, atoms put together make molecules, molecules put together make bigger bodies, and everything and anything that exists in this world. In fact, the last one, neutrino here, you may say, I don't see it. What is this particle? This is the particle that in fact is produced every time energy is produced in the sun. And therefore, we have millions and millions of these neutrinos showering upon us every moment. So this first generation up, down neutrino and an electron is actually describing, it's enough to describe everything that of which things are made up of here on this earth, we and the matter and the table on which I'm sitting, or the computer that I'm looking at. But the periodic table has some more entries, and this is the essence of the study that was done by particle physicists. They figured out that in addition to these 6 particles, 1, 2, 3, 4 particles, another 8 particles exist, and this is the complete list of the fundamental particles, and that is the which make matter, and this has to be associated. It is not enough to say that these are the fundamental constituents. You need to know how they are glued together. That is, it's not enough to say what are the how do you make a house? Bricks. What are the bricks? But you also need to know what is the mortar. And that mortar is the 4 fundamental interactions, which are also mediated by the elementary particles, which I call bosons. So this is the world of elementary particles. And just like we have Newton's laws of motion, for example, we say that force is equal to mass into acceleration. So we know that when a particle moves under the action of a force, if I throw up a ball, and how far it will go will depend on how fast I have thrown it. And just like that, but these are the laws, not just of the balls which I throw up and down or a bullet which I fire, but these are the laws of the fundamental particle of which everything is made. And this one little equation which is written, this is like, I don't know how many of you read stories from Tolkien, but this is the one equation, like there is this one ring to bind them all in that book, which is some of you might have read, but this is the one equation which describes the entire working of particle physics. Now, this is what particle physics is all about. But for this particular equation to be proven correct, we had to really find the Higgs boson. And this was the experiment that particle physicists did for many, many decades. And the Large Hadron Collider, the LHC, was built to look for this Higgs boson, the spin zero particle. And about 10 years ago, indeed, this Higgs boson was found. And this was the terminus for the train of the Standard Model. This proved, this is an experimental result, where 2 protons were colliding and one Higgs boson was produced, which in its decay produced these 2 particles whose tracks were seen in this extremely big detector at the Large Hadron Collider, in which actually I can tell you, and we can be proud of, that Indian physicists, experimental physicists, were part of building this detector. Indian accelerator physicists were involved in building the accelerator, and Indian theoretical physicists like me were involved in predicting what will happen in a collision when the Higgs boson is produced. So all in all, this was a very exciting time. And 10 years ago, there is this wonderful cartoon that I am producing from a journal called, it's a popular journal called CERN Courier, which tells you about the discoveries that are made at CERN, which is a laboratory in Geneva in Switzerland. And all of us have, from time to time, particle physicists, some of the particle physicists have visited the laboratory. And here, this lady, the scientist, is saying, we have discovered what nothingness is made up of. And what she is holding in her hand is Higgs boson. So this is kind of telling you I wanted to use this cartoon to convey to you the enormity of the discovery of the Higgs boson. And in my previous slides, I have tried to tell you that the Higgs boson had to be found to be able to prove that this one equation, which particle physicists had developed over decades, and those laws of particle physics, which we are using to understand, for example, energy emission from the interior of the sun, that these laws are exactly how we think they are. To prove this, we needed to find the Higgs boson. And indeed, this profound truth is what is being explained here. So I have explained to you what is the status of particle physics right now. We have got a beautiful theory. And then somebody therefore can ask very easily, is there life for particle physicists after the Higgs discovery? And the answer is yes. Are we just saying this because we want to keep our jobs? Answer is actually no. And particle physicists had started looking at what after Higgs decades ago. And just like we call laws of particle physics, the area, the subject which encodes the laws of particle physics as the standard model, the discussion of interactions and particles which do not exist in standard model, we call it physics beyond the standard model. And the Large Hadron Collider has been looking for evidence for such physics beyond the standard model, and we have so far not found any proof at the Large Hadron Collider for any of the big ideas that the field had produced. So particle physics finds itself in a very peculiar place. There is a very famous book called Tale of Two Cities. The author is Charles Dickens, and it begins like this: it is the best of the time, it is the worst of the times. He was talking of French Revolution. Now here I'm using that to describe the situation in particle physics right now, that we have found the standard model heats, we have proved the correctness of the standard model, and we have no glimmer of interactions or particles beyond standard model that we think must exist. Now, the question that you can ask is that, are you bringing up all these reasons because, you're not finding anything? But the funny part is that the particle physicists did not start asking the question, what beyond the Higgs, just now. There are very good reasons. And one of the most important reasons for expecting physics beyond standard model is the dark matter in the universe. And that's the one that I want to take next. So most of the reasons come from what I call cosmic connections. And what happens is that, very interestingly, I showed you what I said, the periodic table of particle physics, which contains the quarks and the leptons. And I explained to you how all the matter in the universe is made up of these quarks and leptons, the stars, the galaxies, everything is made up of these quarks and leptons, that is the electrons. So funnily enough, this entire thing accounts only for 5% of the total matter in the universe. This is the next point that I'm going to try and describe in detail. That if you look at the entire energy budget of the universe, what we find is that only about 5% is made up of the protons, helium, neutrons, and so on and so forth. There is 27% in the universe matter which does not shine. And this is the first and simplest evidence, experimental evidence, that tells us that there is only at least one particle beyond the standard model. But the funny part is, I couldn't have been able to draw this conclusion. I wouldn't have been able to say that this matter explains only 5% if we had not understood the interaction that all the standard model particles have. That is the funny part of it, that we have been able to draw this conclusion that this blue matter, which is 27%, is not standard model matter, only because we understand exactly the laws that govern the interactions, the motion of this 5% matter. And that is I'm going to give you different reasons how astronomers, astrophysicists, and particle physicists arrived at this conclusion and what is really meant by dark matter. So the first time, this idea came up was actually almost 100 years ago now, not quite, about 80 to 90 years ago. So there was one person called Zwicky, and he was trying to look at velocity of objects in the galaxy which are rotating, okay? And I would like to show you and share with you a picture so that you see what I mean. What I'm showing you here is a picture of two galaxies. The galaxy on the left, you will see that all these stars in the galaxy are rotating. This is a spiral galaxy. And you will see that the stars on the right-hand side are rotating bit slower, and the stars on the left-hand side in the galaxy are rotating faster. And these galaxy objects are rotating faster because there are more there is more matter, as you can see with the red, denoted by the red, whereas on the right-hand side galaxy, there is less matter and they're moving with less velocity. This is just to show you that the velocities with which the different objects move seem to depend on their total matter in the galaxy. And this is what a very famous astrophysicist called Zwicky first located. What he saw is that at the edge of the galaxies, the stars were moving extremely fast. And if you calculated with that velocity, and if you knew if calculated how much mass was necessary to be inside the galaxy so that the particles can move at that speed and still remain in the galaxy, then you will find that the mass that was required was much more than the known mass, which was made up of protons and helium and neutrons and so on and so forth. So this is what he saw. And this was put firmly in place. Since this is particularly a talk on Marie Curie's birthday, I decided to include this. This was one of the evidences for the dark matter came from observations made by this very famous astronomer. Her name is Vera Rubin. She passed away a few years ago. And what she did is that she measured actually the velocities of the stars that I showed you rotating around the center of the galaxy. And I will explain to you in the next slide why one expected the velocities to go down as one goes further and further away from the center of the galaxy. But the velocities, instead of going down, kept on constant as we went further and further outside. These were actually Vera Rubin's observations. And that actually told us that there exists matter in the galaxies which we cannot see. It's not luminous. So it is not made up of stars or other objects. Now, this is very simple to understand. So let me try to tell you. I explained to you by showing you a picture that stars rotate. Now, by and large, one expects stars closer to the center to rotate faster. And this is a very simple thing to do. Those of you who have done some knowledge of mechanics will realize that if there is a heavy mass m at the center, and if there is a star which is rotating at a distance r, the velocity of the star is given by this very simple relation where g is Newton's constant. Okay, and let me consider two stars, f at a distance rf from the center, n which is at a distance r subscript n, which is, so this rn is smaller than rf. So if rf is, for example, 4 times rn, I can use this equation and I will find that f should rotate twice as slow as how n should rotate. And however, reality was that far and near galaxies, that is this star here and this star here, rotated at the same velocity, when as we should have expected the velocity to go down according to this formula. So this meant that the mass that is getting enclosed is also increasing as the radius r of the orbit is increasing. And this mass was picturesquely dubbed as the dark matter. That is a matter which one cannot see. So this is actually much more accurate measurements that came much later. This is Vera Rubin's measurements. And this came from another galaxy called M33. Actually, most of the galaxies in the universe, 80% are actually spiral galaxies. That means they are flat spirals. And as you go along the arm in the spiral, you find that the velocity, instead of going down like this, the velocity keeps on increasing and then remains constant as you go outwards. So this was the, and now funnily, if you do this now, this was one very nice measurement of M33. This was a measurement of a galaxy called M31 by Vera Rubin. And now one has measured it for a large number of galaxies and one finds always the same thing. The velocity remains constant as you go further and further away from the center of the galaxy. So this means that there is matter which we cannot see. There is non-luminous matter in the galaxies at the scales of the galactic distances. Then one actually found another evidence, much more evidence from of the dark matter. And please look at these two pictures, and I'll come back to these pictures in half a second. I'll go back to this next slide. So in this picture here on the left hand side called bullet cluster, what has been pictured is a collision of two galaxies. And blue is the picture of this galaxy cluster, which is obtained by gravitational lensing. What is meant by gravitational lensing is that as light travels around a very heavy object, it bends. This is the rule of general theory of relativity. And by the bending of the light, you can map what is the mass that is bending the light. It's a bit like a diffraction experiment that some of you might have done. So the dark matter actually images the gravitational lensing images the dark matter. So the blue is the image of the bullet cluster of the collision in gravitational lensing, and that is by bending of light. And this is the image of the cluster in X-rays. Now X-rays are emitted by baryonic matter, by protons. So therefore there is matter, which is usual matter, which is denoted by red, and then there is much more bigger scale on which matter is there, and this matter is the dark matter. So in fact, more and more distant galaxy sectors are now being seen. And by the way, these X-ray measurements are done by satellite-based experiment exactly of the kind that were described by the speaker just before. So you see here in action applications of space-based satellites to research in very fundamental area, namely the dark matter in the universe. Then the last but not the least is that in the history of universe, our understanding how the universe was formed, we actually find that the seeds for galaxies where the formation are sown by the gravitational interaction of the dark matter. So the cosmic wave, there is something called cosmic microwave background radiation, which exists in the universe everywhere. And the discovery of this cosmic microwave background radiation, in fact, had got its discoverer a Nobel Prize. And measurements of this radiation with high accuracy again tells you that there exists dark matter in the scale of the visible universe. So we know dark matter exists at the scale of galaxies. We know dark matter exists at the galaxy clusters, and we know dark matter exists at the huge scale of the universe. So at the level of solar system, you can ask this question, but because you need really large masses to be able to see the effect of the dark matter, at the level of solar system, for example, by looking at the orbits of Jupiter or something like that, you won't be able to get evidence for dark matter. The changes that dark matter will cause in those velocities are just too small, and therefore at a distance scale of solar system or a parsec level, we won't see the evidence. But at the level of kiloparsec, megaparsec, and gigaparsec distance level, dark matter existence has been established. And I have given you 3 different types of experiments that were done. These were measurements done by bending of light as well as by X-ray spectrometers aboard satellites. These were again done by satellite-based experiments which measured the cosmic microwave background radiation, and then there were Earth-based optical measurements, which again told us that their dark matter exists on all distance scales. And please look at the distance scales. The distance scales are kiloparsec and up to gigaparsec. And I hope you all remember that 1 parsec is the distance that light travels in 1 year. And if you remember that it takes 8 minutes for light from the sun to come to Earth, you can imagine how much is the distance that light travels in 1 year, because this is just 8 minutes. Just calculate how many minutes a year has, and then you will realize what is 1 parsec, what is this distance, and then you go beyond and multiply it by 10 to the 1,000 times, multiply it by 1,000,000 times, and multiply it by another 1,000,000 times. Now, what are the velocities of these dark matter particles, which I showed you, which you can kind of extract from measuring the observed velocities, and you find that the dark matter that is moving also has a velocity of the order of 200 kilometers per second. So it moves very slowly compared to the velocity of light. Okay, so this is the dark matter puzzle, and this is perhaps we have no candidate in the periodic table of particle physics which will qualify for being the dark matter. And as I keep on saying, we could draw this conclusion only and only because we know the interactions of all the standard model particles extremely well. So now this is the situation about dark matter. This is just one of the puzzles that standard model that requires us physics beyond standard model. And I just wanted to sort of, if you catch a particle physicist in the street, what will the particle physicist answers be for requiring physics beyond standard model? It will be that, oh, see, neutrinos have non-zero masses. This got the Physics Nobel Prize in 2015. Then the second one, like me, would say, yes, we have found a light Higgs boson at the Large Hadron Collider. That was the Physics Nobel Prize of 2013. Then a really more sophisticated theories than we would say that we feel the force of gravity, but we do not know how to describe it. We do not have the correct equation to describe its quantum behavior, which means, just to go back and tell you what it means, is that this equation still does not include gravitation. So this is what particle physicists will say. But an astroparticle physicist, that a physicist who is interested both in astronomy, astrophysics, and particle physics, which is also a person like me, and we will say that actually the most strong reasons for believing that there is physics beyond standard model is that we have this evidence that dark matter makes up 27% of the universe, and we don't have a particle in the standard model which can be dark matter. We also need to understand there is another cosmic puzzle, which we are not going to go into here, but I want to introduce that word, that we need to understand why the universe contains only matter, and that is the puzzle which is called baryon asymmetry in the universe. And last but not the least, in case there are some among you who know this, I will include this word. This is called that not only that the universe is expanding, but the universe is expanding with ever increasing speed, and this is called cosmic acceleration. So these are the puzzles that physicists, particle physicists, astrophysicists have to understand, have to solve, and dark matter is really the topmost puzzle as we see it now. And actually, particle physicists try to solve some of these puzzles by postulating a symmetry that associated with every particle in that periodic table of particle physics, there is a supersymmetric partner. So for the symmetry to solve the problems that we think the theory has, we must have partner of the one of the quarks that is given in the table to have a mass with such that mass multiplied by the velocity of light square should be less than 1000 GeV. And looking at them for them at the LHC was one way to probe the physics beyond standard model. And in fact, what is interesting is that the solution to one problem that was given in this red list, namely this problem, one solution actually provided also the solution to this blue, the topmost problem, blue problem, because the supersymmetric theory, on which I had actually written this book many, many years back, that theory actually has ready-made dark matter candidate particles, and therefore looking for the dark matter at the LHC might also be one way in which look for physics beyond standard model. So it will solve two puzzles for the price of one. So, you know, people designed Large Hadron Collider with this in mind. Excuse me, should I continue? I'm hearing many other noises.
Yeah, you continue, ma'am. We meet
Yeah.
at them.
Yeah. So, for example, if you were, a physicist, when Large Hadron Collider was being built, we had hoped the Large Hadron Collider to solve all these problems, the Higgs and the dark matter. But as it happened, we found the Higgs, but the mountains of dark matter seem to be still further down in the horizon. And therefore, now we think that we would like to look for this dark matter through the properties of the top quark and the Higgs and peep at the BSM land through this window. And in fact, this was a picture made by a physicist friend of mine in 2003, saying that there are so many different ideas of what the physics beyond standard model can be. And the day the Higgs was found and a picture was taken through that window that I'm telling you, we actually ruled out a whole lot of theories of physics beyond standard model. So now the question to ask is, how can we use this window for the dark matter hunting? So I have tried to explain to you what dark matter is. Now I have to tell you how to look for it at the LHC. So before I actually go and explain that, let me try to actually say, how is, now I have told you that there exists dark matter even today. Now you have to ask the question, this dark matter doesn't sit in your periodic table of particle physics. So what kind of interactions does it have? Obviously it has gravitational interactions, but does it have any other interaction? Must it have any other interaction? And these kind of questions are answered by our trying to understand how this dark matter has happened to be around us today, that we see this universe. So consider this universe as an example. It's a thought experiment. Think of it as a big box, okay? And this has a temperature. Now, if there are two types of particles, we'll talk with a simple universe, only two types of particles. There are particles of type A and particles of type B, and they are moving. Now, there are different possibilities. Not interact. Sorry, am I audible?
Yes, madam.
Hello?
Yes, madam. You are audible.
Because I got a message that I have been muted.
No, madam.
Okay.
It's audible, madam.
Go ahead,
Okay.
ma'am, please.
Okay, somehow the machine is doing
there is some
funny things.
disturbance, something down there.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about this. So there are four conditions that you can imagine. One is that the particles do not interact. So universe will stay like this forever and ever and ever since the beginning. Obviously, that is one possibility, but the second possibility is that there are interactions by which two types of A particles can go into two types of B particles. Now, if that happens, but reverse interaction doesn't happen, then all A type of particles will convert into B type of particles, and universe will be not left with any A type of particles. The third case is that A plus A goes to B plus B, nothing else changes, and B plus B can also go into A plus A. So then they will keep on going in forward and backward reactions, and universe maintains equilibrium forever. There's a fourth case where A plus A can go to B plus B, and B plus B can go into A plus A, but universe is expanding and universe is cooling down. Which are the two things that are happening to our universe? So in the thought experiment, our particular case is case 4. Now, in this case 4, the universe is expanding, it cools down, and A type of particles can come together, produce B type of particles. B type of particles can produce back A type of particles, and this goes on. Now, the whole point is that the scale at which these things happen, I will not go through the details of this, but there is a rate at which this process will happen. And universe is cooling down, so the only other time scale is the scale of the expansion. And if the scale of the interaction and the time scale of the expansion actually match, then the process will remain in equilibrium. But beyond a certain point, when the universe keeps on expanding, the A type of particles and B type of particles are going away from each other. So you will not find enough number of particles to come together for the reaction to produce go in both the directions. And that is when you would say that the reaction A plus A going to B plus B is in fact out of equilibrium. And it is only when beyond a certain point, the reaction will produce only in one direction. So let me call in this B is my dark matter particle and A is any other type of particle, electrons or protons or what have you, and all the members of the periodic table of particle physics. And as the universe expands and as the universe cools, we will have just at some point it will happen that only the forward reaction will happen and the backward reaction will not happen. And it is this that the dark matter particle will go out of equilibrium with the rest of the universe, and then their number will remain unchanged because they can't find each other to annihilate and go back to a type of particles. So that is really how the relic, what is called relic. So this is like from the Big Bang, initial Big Bang, this is a relic that gets left over, and this relic is the dark matter particles. And the direct experimental evidence exists only for the gravitational interaction, and the expected relic density predictions can actually be done, a calculation. Again, I keep on telling you that the laws of particle physics will tell us how this will happen and what would be the quantitative number, and the expected relic density, the expected number of dark matter particles in today's universe are in fact determined by our theoretical understanding of the early universe and what were the particles that were present in the early universe and what were their interactions with each other. And therefore, in the current understanding of the early universe, from these calculations, from comparing it with the relic density that we measure today, that we see, that is the 27%, with these two measurements together, the measurement, comparing the measurement with the prediction, we can actually conclude quite uniquely that the dark matter particles must have some other interaction other than the gravitational interaction, but it also is different from all the four fundamental interactions that we have found so far. So truly I have a BSM particle and a BSM interaction. And unfortunately, none of the observation information helps us to constrain what its mass should be or what its interaction should be. As I already told you, it has implications for the formation of structures of the stars, the galaxies, and from those measurements, what is liked is a dark matter particle which will fall out of the thermal equilibrium in the early universe when it is non-relativistic, and that is called cold dark matter. So that is the situation, and what it should be its mass. So in fact, as I told you, there are many candidates for what a dark matter particle can be, and their mass ranges from 10 to the minus 30 giga electron volts. That means that the mass times C square is 10 to the minus 30 GeV, giga electron volts, and over the entire range until we go to the 10 to the 6 GeV, and this cold dark matter WIMP is this area from 10 to the 0 to 10 to the 2 GeV, and this is the range that the Large Hadron Collider can actually look for a dark matter particle in this range, and theoretically from the structure formation, this is the range that we still like from the astrophysicists and particle physicists alike. I'm going to skip this because I don't have time. So how can we detect this dark matter particle on Earth? And there are different ways in which we can detect the dark matter particle. One is that we are living in a sea of dark matter. There is dark matter around the Earth. So how can we try to trap and detect this dark matter? One way is that you use a heavy nucleus like xenon. This dark matter particle impinges on your detector on this nucleus, and then what happens is that the nucleus recoils. This is something we know. This is a mechanical collision, and measure the recoil velocity of the xenon nucleus, and then try to ask the question whether you have seen a dark matter particle. Now this thing really works if the dark matter particle mass is between 1 and 1000 times heavier than the proton. That means it's 1 GeV up to 1000 GeV. That is the range of the WIMP that I told about. But please remember that the typical recoil energies of this nucleus here are 100 kilo electron volts, and 1 electron volt is the energy that an electron gains when it falls to a potential difference of 1 volt. So you can see that these are very, very slow moving nuclei, and therefore it's a very difficult experiment. But such experiments have been made over the last 10, 25 years almost, and the experiments have not found any evidence for dark matter particle, and therefore they have put limits on the cross section, saying that for this mass, the cross section, even if a dark matter particle exists, must be less than such and such number. So with all this area above in this plane was ruled out by this experiment. So the experiments so far, these kind of experiments, have not been able to find any evidence for the dark matter. Is there any other way in which we can look for the dark matter? One is I just now described to you, which was the direct detection. That is, a dark matter particle comes and hits on a nucleus, and then you notice the recoil particle. This is what we saw. This is called the direct detection. At a collider, you can actually have standard model particles coming together, producing a couple of dark matter particles, and this is the thing that a collider can look for. But I should tell you here that we have, I hope it is clear, that we have right now many, many different models, many, many different ideas what the dark matter can be. The dark matter can be stable, dark matter can be maybe partially stable, dark matter may self-interact with each other, dark matter may not have interactions with each other, but the dark matter particles will interact only with standard model particles. The interactions of the dark matter particles with the standard model particles have to be very, very small, and they have to be entirely new type of interactions. And this is really something, this is just to show you that the different models have about, they differ in 60, about 51 orders of magnitude in the masses of the dark matter particle, and about 63 order of magnitudes in the predicted cross sections. And what I am going to talk about at the Large Hadron Collider is only a dark matter particle in this range, in this very small violet range of 3 orders of magnitude of the masses. And one of the big way is to use the Higgs particles that has been discovered 10 years ago to look for the dark matter. And just to tell you how many Higgs particles have we produced, at the LHC, we have produced about 7 million Higgses. And of course, all those Higgses cannot be detected, but it tells us now that studies at the LHC now can move over to studying some rare decays of the Higgs particle. And this is one rare decay of the Higgs into dark matter particles, which can not be seen in the detectors. And we were able to be lucky enough to make a suggestion how such a particle should be seen. And indeed, such decays also exist in supersymmetric theories. If you remember, I showed you long back, quite some time back. This is an area on which I have been personally working, namely supersymmetric theories and the particles that exist. I'm just going back to remind you of the particular point. Yeah, here. So I had been working on supersymmetric theories, and these supersymmetric theories indeed have a ready-made dark matter particle, and this dark matter particle is something in which a Higgs can decay. And what we wanted to suggest, and we have suggested, is how to look for a Higgs particle which will decay into 2 dark matter particles, and how can you see this? So that is something that happens, and very often you can produce at a particle, a Higgs, along with an association with the Z boson, and the Higgs will decays into 2 dark matter particles, or you produce a Higgs in association with jet, and that is a quark, and the Higgs decays into dark matter particles. So what you're producing in your detector is just a jet and the Higgs particle has decayed into invisible tracks. So all you see is an imbalance of momentum, because remember, we always said energy and momentum is conserved. So if a H and jet is produced where initially the 2 objects were at rest, then when the jet is moving, the momentum of the Higgs must be equal and opposite to the momentum of the jet. And it is only the jet that you will see in your detector. And from that, you will infer that there must have been an invisibly decaying particle, Higgs particle. This is if you see a jet, a single large petty jet with no momentum balancing it. Or you will see a single Z boson produced in your detector at large angles without any momentum balancing its momentum. And that is the thing that can happen. And this is the kind of process that we suggested. I just wanted to write here to show you that we were indeed suggesting these processes. And I will not go through the details, but this is where I said that the PP collision will produce a Higgs and a Z. And that is the process I described to you. Or this is the process when a Higgs is produced with two jets, and this Higgs will decay into nothing. So these are the kinds of processes that we studied, and we calculated as a theorist at what rate this will happen. But finally, the experimentalists have to look at it. And I will show you a picture of what the experimentalists can do these days. And this is a picture of an experimental result where a Higgs and a Z was produced, where the Z was decayed into two muons, that is these, and the Higgs was decayed into two jets. So this is a process when every single decay product was seen, but this is an example of a process where the Higgs and a Z are produced. Now we want to ask the experimentalists to look for processes where the Higgs is produced, the Z is produced, but the Higgs doesn't decay into two B jets like it has decayed here, but the Higgs decays into nothing. And can the experimentalists look for such a process? And funnily enough, they showed us that they can do that. They can, in principle, look for such a process when nothing is produced except two jets. And this is the one that they're showing here. And these two jets are balancing against this momentum that I told you about. But the funny part and unfortunate part is that the standard model also gives rise to events like this. And those are the events that actually now experimentalists have measured. And therefore, they have told us that our idea that you can produce a Higgs and a Z, and the Higgs decays into nothing, and the Z decays into mu plus mu minus, these kinds of events, they have told us, do not happen up to a certain level of certainty, which means that they have put a limit on how often the Higgs could decay into two invisible objects. That is what they have done. And this is the story. Sometimes a single jet which is unbalanced is also seen by them, but again standard model produces such events. So now people have to look for such events, see how many you expect on the basis of standard model, and see if you have any excess over the standard model. Just like you want to do is whether you've seen any excess over these kinds of events which are expected in the standard model. So what the experimentalists have done to us now, that they have showed us that they can look for events which we think could happen if the Higgs was decaying into dark matter particles. And now they have to work further to see whether indeed that happens in the detector. And if it does, it's not seen to happen in the detector, all they can tell us is that the probability that the Higgs will decay into this invisible object is less than a certain upper limit. And indeed, this was expected that this will happen. And we had actually presented in our paper, predicted what the LHC can do, how much level they can really put a limit. And as it happens, right now, the LHC has only been able to put a limit on the probability that the Higgs decays into these dark matter particles. But LHC will keep on looking at it, because right now the limit they have reached is only about 0.17. So that is as low as they have been able to go. And in future experiments, they will keep on probing it to look for dark matter particle, and yet another higher energies, they will again look for decays of Higgs into dark matter particle. And the point is that in each model, this probability that the Higgs decays into unseen particle is actually related to the total number of dark matter particles in the universe, because remember, everything is decided by the interactions of the dark matter particle. That is why I explained to you earlier that the number of dark matter particles that exist today are also decided by the mass as well as the strength of the interactions of the dark matter particle. And the number of events that you will see in the Large Hadron Collider are also decided by exactly the same strength of interaction. So therefore, by comparing the two, you can try to see whether you have been able to either prove or disprove existence of a channel in which your Higgs actually can decay into a couple of dark matter particles. And the journey is going on. The quest continues. We don't have any evidence yet. Thank you very much.
Dr. Jyoti?
Thank you very much, ma'am, for this thought-provoking lecture. You have all, taken all of us through a journey in the field of particle physics by explaining us about the dark matter and its significance in LHC. So looking forward for more and more interactions with you in future also. On behalf of the SWACK organizing committee, I profoundly thank you for your session today. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Jyoti, for taking us through the session. There are a few questions to both speakers, and let me just bring to both of the speakers that many of the participants have appreciated both the lucid presentation from both the speakers, and to just pick up a few questions that is there. I think this is for Dr. Valarmati. Ma'am, are you around? Valarmati ma'am, can you please unmute yourself? Ma'am, no? Rohini ma'am, there's one question I think for you. Where does dark matter particles fit in standard model of particle physics?
They don't actually. That is what I tried to explain. That dark matter particles do not fit into the standard model of particle physics. So that is the first example we have of physics beyond standard model. First proof that it exists, but we don't know. We are actually, this is to some extent is a very exciting area because we are trying to understand. So this is like saying that when Rutherford didn't know that the atom was made up of nucleus and electrons. So we are really now at that stage. At the time of Rutherford, we knew atoms. Rutherford actually was the first one who said that an atom exists of a nucleus and an electron. So right now we are at that stage about dark matter. We don't know what it is, and that was the complete absence of knowledge about it. But at the same time, we know it exists. That is the point.
Thank you, ma'am. Another question: does dark matter interact with Higgs field?
Yes, it does. Depending on what is your model, it does interact with the Higgs field.
Okay. Another question from Umesh: at what temperature is it expected that dark matter can start converting to luminous matter type?
That's a very good question, actually. And that those temperatures existed in the early universe. Okay. So that had to be, I cannot give you the number just now. That is not in my head. But the early first 3 minutes of the universe, okay, I should be able to, if you send me a mail, I will give you an answer. It's not, the number is not in my head, but certainly that stopped very, very early in the development of the universe, and certainly that it cannot happen anymore. Right now, the dark matter part, I think it's a very good question, because in the beginning, when the process was in equilibrium, the dark matter particles could convert into luminous particles, and luminous particles could convert back into dark matter particles. That is why there was a complete equilibrium, and it fell out of equilibrium at, I don't even know, at some fraction of a second after the Big Bang, but I will be able to give the number if you send me the mail.
Thank you. Another question: is pair production and annihilation possible in case of dark matter?
Yes, it is possible. It depends on what the theory is, but yes, indeed, it is possible. And that's what this thought experiment was all about, that A and A were some luminous matter, and B and B were some dark matter. So clearly, these processes that I was writing was pair annihilation or pair production. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. How do we measure the velocity of luminous objects?
That is there are actually many different methods, and that's it's astronomer's story. So I am not able to tell you in detail how astronomers make measurements, but you will really make a measurement, for example, of a star in a galaxy, of its position. You will follow the star over years, and this velocity is rather small. As I told you, this velocity is of the order of few hundred meters per second, and you actually track. So the luminous matter or the stars are actually tracked by looking either through, there are different methods, but the most direct method is optical observation. Okay.
There's one question on, she wants to know some information on interaction between DM and Higgs field.
Okay, but as I said, it depends on the model that you are considering. And right now, there is no accepted answer to this question. But again, I don't know what is her background, her or his. So if they communicate with me, I can give some reading material.
Thank you, ma'am. Another question is, what temperature is it expected that dark matter can start converting to luminous matter type?
I think this question you asked already. And I answered already.
Oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am.
I answered already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we are ending with your questions for you. There's one on, need dark matter be made of, no, I'm not very clear about that question. So I think, yeah. Is Valarmati ma'am still around?
Yeah.
Ma'am, with just a lot of questions on satellite.
Yeah.
Someone wants to know if, again from Umesh, does ISRO share any data in public so that students and enthusiasts can unearth valuable information from them?
Yes, 100%. The data collection center is at the NRSC, Hyderabad. We can contact headquarters ISRO at Bangalore. Some of the data are available in the open site. People can download and do the processing. They can contact our representatives.
Thank you, ma'am. Question from Bharati Ganesh. Please elaborate on scope for aerospace technician or engineer.
Aerospace, yes, they have got a very good scope here. In my lecture, the satellite starts with the structure. The structure and these mainly, it has got that expertise from aerospace engineer. And in addition, starting from ground realization of a spacecraft to space, aerodynamics and all other things will be part of this particular core area. They have got very good scope in our satellite realization field.
Thank you, ma'am. A question from Sana. What is the purpose of polar-centric satellite? Or is it a name of satellite launching vehicle? She just wants to know what is the purpose of polar-centric satellite.
Polar-centric, we heard of polar satellite. I'm not very much familiar of
not very clear.
The term
Okay.
polar-centric satellite. Okay. Polar satellite, it is from north to south. The satellite used to rotate around the Earth.
Okay, ma'am. A question on how often does Google Map is revised and what is the present precision?
See, Google Map is not under our control, number one. It is maintained by international agencies. And Google Map, it goes up to meters, centimeters resolution also.
Okay. Someone wants to know from Prakash HS, how can ISRO encourage students doing project, especially college students?
I will tell you, as far as our center is concerned, we used to observe MTech project students, minimum period of 1 year, so that 1 year people can contribute in terms of project development, which will be fitting in our subsystems. Generally, we discourage the people, those who want to do 2 months, 3 months project and all, because it takes a minimum time for them to get familiarized about our system itself. So ISRO generally, our center in particular, entertain people, those who are having 1 year or more than that period of project duration, so that they can also gain knowledge.
Thank you, ma'am. Question from Umesh again. Do we build in redundancy in satellite subsystems? How do we do the trade-off with weight?
I'll explain. Yes, it's a very good question. We have got a redundancy, 99% of redundancy for many systems. Some of the things we cannot have redundancy. For example, payload means payload cannot have redundancy. Only one system will be there. And same way, sometimes battery also will be one system. We may not have redundancy. Generally, the spacecraft configuration is being configured with the redundant system. And if he tells with respect to weight, yes, if weight is a constraint, we used to build redundancy in terms of truncated operations. For example, if the data transmitter fails, which will transmit the high data rate, we will go for another transmitter which is used for some other purpose with less data rate. The same time, we are in a position to get the data, but at the cost of more duration, and by leaving some of the satellite operations. So if weight is a constraint, we used to take redundancy in terms of roundabout route. But still, we don't miss the function. We don't miss the functional. This one, the product from the spacecraft.
Thank you, ma'am. Janya Nayak would like to know what is the condition of space with many countries launching their satellites now.
Yeah, space is filled with so many satellites, but still, space is a vast one. You cannot imagine. But many satellites are existing in space. Compared to 10 years back, the numbers are alarming, but still we need these satellites for our applications.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I think there are some few more questions, but I'm sure the participants can contact both the speakers directly. We would like to thank both the speakers for their lucid presentation, and many of the participants have messaged to us saying they have had a wonderful time with clear a presentation of the understanding of the topics that was presented to us today. So thank you both speakers for spending your time with us today on this occasion. Let me also take this opportunity to place on record our heartfelt thanks to Professor Vasu for his unending motivation and energy. Dr. Vijay P. Bhatkar, President Vijnana Bharati, Dr. Shankar Rao Tatwadi, Mentor Vijnana Bharati, Professor E.T. Puttaya, President SWACK, Director Secretary, Dr. Kalaiselvi, for being present with us during the beginning of the seminar. I would also like to thank all the Indian State Executive Committee members of Vijnana Bharati and all the district unit members of SWACK. And Dr. Y.S. Gayatri, Treasurer, Chairperson, Matruvedike, for her joyful zeal in all activities that we do. I would like to thank our Secretary, General Secretary, Sri Ramesh H, for his background support and enthusiasm. It is with pleasure that I thank all the delegates who have come from all parts of the country and also for a very, very active participation in the sessions that we just had. Would like to thank all the office bearers of members of Swadeshi Vijnana Andolana Karnataka and the Women's Wing Matruvedike. Last but not the least, a big thanks to Dr. Shivanna Viti for the immense technical support that we have had throughout this talk. For the participants, the feedback form has been given to you in the chat box. Please fill it up. Your certificates will reach you within a week's time. Please give us a week's time so that all the certificates can get across to you. If not, you can contact us directly. So let me close the session. Thank you all for your presence. Have a pleasant evening and good night, and stay safe. Thank you.
You want to say something? You want to say something?
Hello, excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Actually, the feedback link is not getting open, ma'am.
Ramesh, can you just check why the feedback link is not open?
Yes, madam, it's working, madam. It's working. but you know what happens in their device, they need to log into their excuse me.
We are getting the feedback from we have sent it. It is not clear.
Yeah. We'll send you, sir. We'll
Can you
send you.
mute? Please mute yourself. Don't unmute.
So I will send you the feedback link immediately. Don't worry. You contact the numbers in the brochure. And it's working, sir. It's working. Already we received more than 65 feedbacks. But,
But
some,
it's not
I
working
think.
for us. For some of us, it's not working.
Yeah, those of you who are not able to get through directly, now please contact the organizers. The numbers are given to you. You will be able to, they will send it to you individually. Because if some of them have gotten, they should be on some other issue with your settings.
Which number, ma'am?
It is given in the poster, no? Sir, can you just put up the number there, for phone number
Yes,
or a
sir,
mail,
please.
the SWACK mail ID?
Yeah, SWACK mail ID.
SWACK mail ID, you can probably put it.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Wait, one more.
Good evening, Shivana.
Ma'am, Rohini ma'am, Valarmati ma'am, if you would like to leave the session, you can please leave. We would not like to keep
madam.
holding you. Yes, Ramesh.
Yes. I would like to thank myself and our Professor Vasu, sir.
Professor Vasu, I would just like to say bye.
Yeah,
yes,
thank you, Rohini Godbole ma'am. It's a pleasure listening to your lecture. And thank you, Valarmati ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, all the participants who have participated here. We would like to continue these sessions in the future with other subjects also. It's been a continuous series of webinar. We have been doing it every month. Maybe in this month, we have been planning for so many of the webinars. The links will be sent to you, all the people. Thank you very much, ma'am. Ma'am. Thank you. And
bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye. And also, I request all of you to send the feedback form. You will be getting the certificates immediately. There is no problem at all, but there will be a restriction of certificates which will be posting by.
Some of them have message saying they've already received the certificate.
Yes, this is a restriction for a per day certificate receiving. It will be 100. Only 100 will be 100 certificate will be sent by a day. Or after the 100 gets over, it will automatically going to stop, and tomorrow it will start again after 24 hours. And then 1 to 200 it is going to start. There will be no problem for you issues. Once you submit the feedback form, you will be receiving your certificate automatically. It will be we have kept it in a cloud. It will be generating automatically. There won't be any problem for your certificate at all. That will be very clear. Okay. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Everybody, all the members, including our Matruvedike members, especially Dr. Y.S. Gayatri ma'am, Kavita ma'am, and Jyoti Lakshmi, and Kamala, and all Padmaja, and Jyoti Lakshmi, Jayashree Venkatesh, and all the other people, and from the Vijnana Bharati, Vivekananda Pai, and so many other people who have joined today for our session. I would like to thank everybody who are all joined from all over across the country, and some of the delegates who have joined from the outside of the country also. From the abroad also, there are many of the listeners were there from the UK, and as well as from the Singapore and other places also. There were many participation for listening these lecturers. Thank you very much for all the people from across the country and as well as from the globally. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon. We'll get back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So shall I close?
Ramesh, shall I log out or do you want us to stay?